Chapter 571. The First Calamity. Dao Court. Guan and Su Jin accompanied Bai Sheng on his way to the imperial city, with laughter and joy along the way. Bai Sheng had never been so happy. During this period, Guan would use a clone to replace himself while his real body went to pick medicinal herbs. Su Jin was a 10,000-year-old great demon, already in the Nirvana realm, but still had not seen through the switch between Guan's true body and his clone. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. They had not yet reached the imperial city, and with 2 years until the examination, Bai Sheng was not in a hurry. He had set out early, wanting to travel and expand his horizons. On this day the rain drizzled incessantly. Bai Sheng and Guan came to a small pavilion in the mountains to rest, and Su Jin leaped out of the bookcase, perched on Bai Sheng's shoulder, and licked his face as if trying to help him wipe the rainwater away. Bai Sheng had grown accustomed to her affection and didn't pay it much mind. He was discussing the local customs and culture with Guan. Although it was his first visit, he had read about this place in books and was very excited. The rainy weather did not dampen his spirits. Guan held the wine gourd in his hand, drinking while listening to Bai Sheng talk about the past and present, discussing the masterpieces that had been born here and the stories that were worth singing and weeping over. When Bai Sheng had talked until his mouth was dry and his throat parched, Guan tossed him the wine gourd. Bai Sheng caught it and poured it directly into his mouth. "I've heard that there are ghosts and apparitions around here, but I don't know if it's true or not. I've practiced martial arts for over 30 years, yet I've never seen a demon or ghost." Guan, with the Cyan Hong sword in hand, spoke eagerly. Su Jin couldn't help but roll her eyes at him, feeling that he was overestimating himself. She really wanted to speak, but she was afraid of scaring Bai Sheng. "Wuxia world," Sight Bai Sheng said with a laugh. "If there is, I would like to meet one too. You're as weak as a chicken. Aren't you scared of ghosts? One eventually dies. Rather than living a quiet life, never seeing ghosts or demons, I wouldn't regret or be afraid even if I died under the claws of a demon or ghost." Bai Sheng replied with an untroubled laugh, his eyes shining. Guan felt that Bai Sheng seemed frail, but in fact he was full of energy, interested in everything and full of fighting spirit. This guy had a tenacity inherent in his bones, truly worthy of being the reincarnation of a celestial spirit god. The celestial spirit god, despite different origins in each reincarnation, would retain some of the original personality traits. That was also why Bai Sheng could attract Su Jin's attention. Guan said with a smile, "You should practice martial arts, not just study." Bai Sheng stood up, holding the wine gourd and assumed a pose, executing a set of awkward fist technique, then said proudly, "Isn't it better to excel in both literature and martial arts? Why don't you teach me a set of swordsmanship? I think swords complement poetry." "All right, let's start now." "Really?" Hearing Guan's words, Bai Sheng was overjoyed and immediately dragged Guan to practice swordsmanship. After beginning sword training, Guan was not all smiles and laughter with Bai Sheng, occasionally correcting Bai Sheng's posture with the hilt of the sword, which angered Su Jin. Once Bai Sheng was able to accept her, she'd make Guan pay. As she thought this, she saw Guan applying more force, causing Bai Sheng to cry out in pain, which further annoyed her. "If you're afraid of pain, you can give up." "No problem, I can hold on." Guan deliberately asked this, and upon hearing Bai Sheng's reply, Su Jin could only bear with it. In the days that followed, every time they rested, Bai Sheng would pester Guan to practice swordsmanship. In Su Jin's view, this sword Dao was quite ordinary, practicing it was a waste of time. She planned to teach Bai Sheng immortal cultivation later, since only by stepping onto the immortal path could he stay with her forever. Another half a year passed. Spring had just begun. Guan and Bai Sheng arrived at the gates of the imperial city, and seeing the majestic gates, Bai Sheng couldn't help but raise his arms and cheer. Su Jin, perched on his shoulder, squinted her fox-like eyes. She sensed a heavy demon chi. There were demons in the city, it seemed trouble was brewing. As expected of the imperial city under the sun of heaven's feet, majestic and imposing, the destination of the celestial mandate, "This is the most prosperous place under heaven," said Bai Sheng excitedly. Guan smiled and said, "There are not only one dynasty in this world. To speak of the celestial mandate like this is a bit presumptuous." Bai Sheng glanced at Guan and asked, "Have you been to other dynasties?" "No." "Then let's first believe that this is the greatest city." Bai Sheng lifted his bookcase and strode toward the imperial city. As he walked, he turned back to ask Guan the purpose of his visit to the imperial city. Guan was evasive, which made Su Jin even more vigilant. The crowd in front of the city gate was vast. They blended into it and quickly vanished from sight. At the same time, on the other side of the human world, Leah stood atop a mountain, looking down at the valley below, where weeds sprawled wildly with the faint outline of ancient attic buildings visible. This was Profound Valley, his first residence when he joined the Supreme Sect years ago. Leah gazed at the valley, looking lost in thought. A figure approached from behind him. It was Long Qing. "Elder Li, should I have someone tidy this up?" Long Qing asked, weariness apparent in his features. With the impending assault from the battle court drawing near, his cultivation grew more arduous. He would not have left his practice had Leah not returned. Leah still wore his black garments, with stubble on his face and his hair casually tied, exuding the air of a wanderer from the martial world, not that of someone from immortal cultivation. "No need, I'm just taking a glance." "You don't need to accompany me especially, I will be leaving soon," Leah replied softly as he overlooked Profound Valley. In his eyes, the weeds in the valley disappeared, replaced by fields of medicinal herbs. He saw 3 young boys playing and frolicking. After hearing this, Long Qing nodded slightly and then turned to leave. He could tell that Leah was preoccupied, but he had no intention of prying. Could any worry be greater than his own life and death? As the millennia passed, Long Qing grew increasingly uneasy, always harboring the feeling of an impending calamity. After Long Qing departed, Leah remained in the same place, deep in thought. The divine exotic immortal spirit appeared on his shoulder and said, "Still looking, huh? The master isn't dead, he just left." "I'm not worried about him. I just wanted to take one last look at this place before leaving." "I might never return," Leah answered. Hearing this, the divine exotic immortal spirit cocked its head, asking in surprise, "Where exactly are you going? You still won't tell me? Ever since you practiced that miracle skill, I can't hear your inner thoughts. Living inside you, I feel like an outsider." Towards the end, its tone was of a complaint. "I'm heading to outer heaven. Where exactly, I'm not sure. I want to follow Guian's steps and also look for Zhang Buku. Didn't you say that the power of the divine exotic realm master still exists? Maybe Zhang Buku is still alive." With that, Leah turned and looked up at the celestial vault. He leaped up, transforming into a beam of sword light, piercing the sky. As he soared further from the ground, the blue of the celestial vault darkened to black, stars emerged and quickly became resplendent. Suddenly, a powerful force of mana descended from above, and Leah's eyes narrowed as a sword materialized in front of him, its blade facing forward, forcefully severing this mana. "Stop!" A shout thundered from the heavens, causing Leah to slow down. He squinted and saw a man in silver armor, spear in hand, rapidly stopping thousands of feet above him. "Without the celestial Tao order, you are not allowed to leave the celestial spirit great world," the silver armor man pronounced, looking down at Leah with a commanding voice. Leah scoffed and asked, "The celestial Tao order? Since when does the celestial spirit great world have such a rule?" He was filled with confusion. For the past 3,000 years he had been secluded in sword enlightenment, and upon leaving seclusion, he did not hear of any celestial Tao order. But the other's tone, daring to regulate the entire celestial spirit great world, was enough evidence of his extraordinary background, which Leah found ludicrous. The great world had just been reshaped and such a powerful force had emerged? Could it be that an outer heaven power had descended and ruled the celestial spirit great world in a very short time? The silver armor man replied, "This celestial rule has been established for 1,000 years, set by the Tao court. I advise you not to act rashly. Above me there is a free immortal who guards. Even if you pass me you will not reach outer heaven. Should you injure me it will be seen as a challenge to the Tao court, and you will be doomed never to transcend." The Tao court? Leah frowned. He had only been detached from the mundane for 3,000 years. How had the Tao court suddenly emerged? Upon further thought, he realized that today's great world was vast and boundless. Even 3,000 years ago his knowledge of the world had been superficial, and he certainly was not aware of its full extent. Perhaps the Tao court was the overlord from another side of the world. What purpose does such a celestial rule serve? To trap all beings within this world? Leah asked mockingly. The silver armor man's brows furrowed and said, "Your sword is no trivial matter, you must be a great power that commands respect. You must have lived from the previous era until now. Let me tell you, a terrible calamity is approaching. It will be the first calamity since the primordial era to affect the entire great world. Going to outer heaven at this time will only lead to one's demise. The Tao court is looking out for your welfare, wanting to gather the power of the great world, to collectively resist the threat from outer heaven." Chapter 572, Disaster Looms. If it had been before, Leah would have certainly barged into the Tao court's blockade without hesitation. But now, upon hearing the silver armor man speak of an impending disaster, he couldn't help but calm down and ponder carefully. He had a clear memory of the great battle that took place 20,000 years ago, which clearly involved powerhouses from outer heaven. Leah gave the silver armor man a deep look and then turned to fly downwards. The silver armor man watched as Leah disappeared into the sea of clouds and then slowly ascended himself. Divine exotic immortal spirit sat on Leah's shoulder, teasing, "You've actually stopped being reckless. It feels quite unfamiliar to me." Leah snorted, "I'm not in any hurry to leave, and besides, if the world is in trouble, I need to stay and protect the Supreme Sect." Ia the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. To reach this point in his life, aside from Guan's protection, the support he had received from the Supreme Sect was substantial, and even now he still considered himself a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Divine exotic immortal spirit sighed, "You really have grown up. What's with that tone? You make it sound like you're talking to a junior." Leah immediately pulled Divine exotic immortal spirit down from his shoulder and vigorously kneaded him in his arms. A breeze blew over with the sea of clouds, and as Leah bantered with Divine exotic immortal spirit, he suddenly felt as if nothing had really changed after all. At dawn. Source: web novel. Com, updated on Omicron New. Guan sat on the eaves, watching the rising sun, his gaze reaching far into the distance. He saw the battle court, searching for the celestial spirit great world. Because the celestial spirit immortal venerable had reshaped the Tao rules, the new celestial spirit great world was temporarily separated from the path of the great Tao, making it hard for the battle court to directly find the celestial spirit great world. Nevertheless, through causality calculations, the battle court was getting increasingly closer to the celestial spirit great world. Immortal Emperor. Guan pondered this name. In the memory of the silent destruction god Emperor, the lord of the war court was the immortal Emperor. The Tao practice of this immortal Emperor was unfathomably profound, and it was uncertain whether he would come this time. He had already sensed the auras of more than a dozen innate golden immortals within the approaching war court's forces, with more battle court powerhouses arriving continuously. Judging by the situation, they were determined to slaughter all the descendants of the Long clan. Guan wasn't the least bit perturbed. He was, on the contrary, looking forward to the arrival of the great battle, during which he could reap lifespan extensively. Generally, Guan wouldn't engage in slaughter, but if someone threatened him, it was an opportunity to kill righteously and justifiably. "Brother Gu, good morning?" Bai Sheng's laughter came from the courtyard, and Guan looked down to see Bai Sheng waving at him. So he smiled and nodded in response. "Are you going to read books again today?" Guan asked. The civil examination was still a while away. It had been a month since they arrived in the imperial city, and every day Bai Sheng would stroll through the city, mainly to find books to read. With Su Jin's help, Bai Sheng had come across quite a bit of money on the way and was now quite wealthy. Bai Sheng laughed, "I'm not reading today. I heard there's an immortal in the city taking disciples, and I want to see if it's a real immortal. Brother Gu, want to come along?" Guan shook his head. "You go ahead, I'm off to find someone for a drink." "You and your drinking." After chatting for a bit, Bai Sheng left with Su Jin. Guan watched Bai Sheng leave, knowing that once the impending disaster in the imperial city was over, it would be his time to leave as well. Having accompanied Bai Sheng for a year, he had scattered his worries, and whatever happened between Bai Sheng and Su Jin in the future, Guan would simply observe from afar. The imperial city bustled day after day. In the eyes of mortals, this imperial dynasty was the most powerful entity in the world, manipulating power, capable of altering heaven and earth. Little did they know, the world is vast, and even the seemingly immovable behemoths can be undone in an instant. If Guan didn't intervene, this imperial dynasty would be annihilated within days, and not even Su Jin in the Nirvana realm could stop it. The impending disaster would change Bai Sheng's mindset, igniting a fiery passion for immortal cultivation like never before. Guan's thoughts drifted away as time rapidly slipped by. Dusk approached. As night neared, lights gradually lit up the city, and the imperial city became even more lively, with the noise reaching Guan's ears. He still sat on the eaves, and following his gaze, billowing dark clouds were rolling toward the imperial city, creating a heavy oppression. At that moment, on another street in the city, Bai Sheng stood on tiptoes in the crowd, looking towards the stage where a Taoist wearing a mask was performing a sword dance, with 5 disciples dressed as demons circling around him. The Taoist swordplay occasionally sped up, sharp as the wind, eliciting cheers from the onlookers. Bai Sheng didn't notice that Su Jin on his shoulder was looking up at the celestial vault. This demon Qi. Su Jin's eyes revealed a hint of dread. She hadn't expected the imperial city to attract such a terrifying demon. This is not good. She turned her head to look at Bai Sheng and licked his face with her tongue. Stop it, I'll buy you something to eat after I'm done watching. Bai Sheng said casually, his gaze fixed on the stage, filled with curiosity. Su Jin became anxious. She bit Bai Sheng's neck, causing him pain that made him cover his neck with his hand. Without waiting for him to speak, she jumped to the ground and ran outside. There were too many people around, and Bai Sheng, worried she might come to harm, could only follow her. After squeezing through the crowd, Bai Sheng saw Su Jin squatting under a tree not far away, and he hurried over. You. Just as Bai Sheng was about to scold Su Jin, she suddenly transformed, turning into a woman in a white dress with a bewitching face. This shocked Bai Sheng so much that he instinctively stepped back. Smack. Su Jin grabbed Bai Sheng's wrist and pulled him in front of her. Listen, I'm only going to say this once, don't scream and shout, a demon is about to descend, and everyone in the city will be devoured by it. I'm no match for it, I can only protect you. You need to come with me now. Su Jin stared at Bai Sheng and spoke solemnly, then pulling him, started walking towards the city gate. Wait a minute. Bai Sheng came back to his senses and hurriedly said, trying hard to pull his hand away, but he could not break free from Su Jin's grip. Su Jin turned to look at him, her brow deeply furrowed. Bai Sheng quickly said, even if you can't save the entire city's population, at least bring Brother Gu with us. Su Jin snorted, why should I bring him? After all, we've been traveling together, we're already like brothers, how could we abandon him? Bai Sheng said in a pleading tone. He didn't care that he was shocked by Su Jin being a demon, he believed Su Jin wouldn't harm him. If she would, he would have been eaten already on their journey, so why wait until today? Fine. Su Jin said impatiently and then took Bai Sheng to their residence. Boom, the sound of thunder rumbled, but the people inside the imperial city were still unaware of the danger. Within those thunderclouds, a terrifying figure was stirring, and a pair of blood-red eyes loomed over the human world. Suddenly, countless demon birds burst out of the sea of clouds, sweeping toward the imperial city, their flapping sounds merging together, instantly drowning out the city's hubbub and disturbing the citizens. In the woods, an Xen was sitting on a stone by the brook, fiddling with the six paths mirror in her hand. Footsteps approached, and the sect hierarch of Chengkuan sect, Yi Qingshan, arrived. His hair was white, but his face still looked young. He was wearing a wide, exquisite robe, and his presence as the head of a sect was hard to conceal. He came behind an Xen, bowed and said, Predecessor, the Dao court sent people over, claiming that a great calamity is about to come to the world, and all sects must join forces to repel the enemy. They hope that our Chengkuan sect will accept the celestial Dao order to coordinate with the Dao court when the calamity arrives. However, this theory of heaven requires the infusion of Chengkuan sect's destiny, and I'm somewhat hesitant. An Xen replied, if there is hesitation, then refuse. Lately she had gained new insights into the six paths mirror, and if it weren't for Yi Qingshan's call, she wouldn't have wanted to come out. But the Dao court is powerful, and compared to it, our Chengkuan sect is like the light of a rice grain against the brilliance of the moon. If we refuse, won't the Dao court target us? Yi Qingshan asked with a frown, his tone full of worry. If they become enemies just because we're unwilling to cooperate, it means that the Dao court does not have the greatness of spirit to shoulder the world. They just want to take the opportunity to calculate against all sections. Such a sect will sooner or later become an enemy. An Xen said casually as she stood up, turned around to look at Yi Qingshan and asked, is that all? Yi Qingshan was taken aback and replied, there's one more thing. Someone in the sect has achieved enlightenment and has become crazed. Can you take a look at him? Why not bring him over here? To tell the truth, his cultivation level can be considered top tier within the sect, and we can't handle him. He's locked himself in his cave mansion, raving that the sky is falling. I've never seen him so afraid. I wonder if it has something to do with the calamity mentioned by the Dao court? Yi Qingshan frowned again. There was something else he didn't mention. In fact, these years during cultivation he too had felt restless, with a sense of impending disaster hanging over his head. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 573, Battle Court Mythology, Confronting Destiny. In the early morning, the sunlight cut through the smoke-filled ruins of the imperial city, where corpses and broken walls stained with bloodstains could be seen everywhere. Sar the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. By Sheng, covered in dust and ash, stood atop the debris, staring at the horrific scenes in all directions, his pupils trembling, unable to accept what was before him. The city he considered the most prosperous had turned into ruins overnight, and the sight of the half-remaining mask of the sword-wielding Taoist had seen earlier touched him even more deeply. How could this happen? Bai Sheng muttered to himself, his voice trembling. He felt as though he was in a nightmare from which he could not awaken. He looked up into the distance, then immediately rushed down, beginning his search for Guan, combing through bodies along the way, fighting back fear and disgust. As the sun continued to rise, reaching high noon, he still hadn't found Guan, his hands now covered in fresh blood. Exhausted, he collapsed onto the street, lacking even the strength to lift his head. After a morning of searching, his heart knew no fear, only numbness. A figure appeared before him. He saw the person's shoes but couldn't bring himself to speak. Su Jin looked down at Bai Sheng and sighed, "Didn't you say you'd rather die in the jaws of demons and ghosts than live a dull life? Last night, you witnessed a great demon that most mortals will never see in their entire lives. Shouldn't you feel fortunate?" Bai Sheng hung his head and asked weakly, "Are you such a demon as well?" Source, web novel. Com, updated on N0 New. Omicron, I do not delight in killing as they do, but I have killed people, killed demons, Su Jin responded, her answer plunging Bai Sheng into silence. Su Jin continued, "Since you've witnessed supernatural powers, why not cultivate immortality with me in the future? Help me find Brother Gu." Bai Sheng struggled to speak, and after uttering those 5 words he completely lost his strength and fainted, toppling forward, but fortunately Su Jin caught him in time. Su Jin held Bai Sheng in her arms, a smile appearing on her face. She had fantasized about this moment for 10,000 years and had finally achieved it. "Don't worry, in this life I will surely protect you, just as you desperately protected me 10,000 years ago." Su Jin murmured softly to herself, lifting Bai Sheng up and then soaring into the sky. Her divine sense enveloped the entire city before continuing outward. Strange, where on earth did he go? Could a demon have devoured him? Su Jin wondered aloud to herself, but she didn't dwell on it. After all, she had already searched for Bai Sheng on behalf of him. If he couldn't be found, it wasn't her fault. She flew off into the distance with Bai Sheng in her arms, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. The clouds above had scattered, and the sunlight spilled over the devastated imperial city, and gradually, a hint of murky energy began to dissipate. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the courtyard, Guan lay in a rocking chair reading a book, occasionally instructing Shenzhen on how to control the Taiqing true fire beneath the artifact refining cauldron. It had been 10 years since he had parted from Bai Sheng. Shenzhen turned her head to look at Guan and asked, "Guan, what's the origin of that Tao court?" Within the Qingkuan sect, it's widely rumored that the Tao court will become the sect that unifies the entire world. Guan answered casually, "Just like the Holy Court, the Tao court was once the ruler of a part of the great heaven and earth. After the Great Thousand World was reconstructed, they grew rapidly. Of course, they were able to do this because they had the backing of a highly practiced and powerful being." "How strong is he, compared to you?" Shenzhen asked with a raised eyebrow. Guan laughed, "Haven't fought, hard to say." "Yeah, right, with you talking like that, that person definitely isn't your match." Shenzhen rolled her eyes at Guan, who could hear her admiration for him in her heart, amazed by his strength, though her tone suggested otherwise. Guan, while turning the pages of his book, said, "Nevertheless, it's still too early for the Tao court to dream of unifying the celestial spirit great world. How far into the future can you see?" Shenzhen asked curiously. In fact, she was extremely curious about Guan's cultivation level but had always restrained herself, feeling too embarrassed to ask. Given the chance to probe, she wouldn't miss it. "Don't ask any more, the will of heaven cannot be revealed." Guan brushed off the question and then turned over, his back to Shenzhen. Shenzhen huffed and then focused on comprehending the Tao treasure within the artifact refining cauldron. Silence returned to the courtyard, with only the occasional wind passing through. The 3 pristine true fire beneath the artifact refining cauldron flickered ceaselessly, as if it would never go out. As it wavered, time swiftly passed by. Spring came and went and autumn arrived. 500 years had passed. 500 years later, Guan still lay on the same chair, while Shenzhen remained seated in front of the artifact refining cauldron. Guan turned over and rose, tucking the green hero travelogue into his chest, picked up the Cyan Hong sword, and drew it from its scabbard. The sound of the blade sliding from its sheath startled Shenzhen, She turned her head towards Guan, watched him handling the sword, and was about to ask what he was doing when suddenly her expression changed and she looked up sharply. Not just her, everyone in the dojo was alarmed and looked up. Above them, the azure celestial vault began to pepper with black dots, which quickly expanded like black holes, riddling the vault with 1,000 gaping wounds. What is that? Shenzhen furrowed her brow and asked. Guan did not look up. He gently swung the Cyan Hong sword, replying, "It's a transcendent force from beyond the Great Thousand World, known as the Battle Court." The Battle Court? Shenzhen had never heard of this name before. She asked in surprise, "Why do all these major sects like to name themselves Court, Holy Court, Tao Court, Battle Court? Your book Celestial Court can't possibly be real, can it?" She had always suspected the investiture of the gods and journey to the west to be true, and now, thinking about it, it seemed very possible. After all, Guan's Tao practice was beyond her imagination. It cannot be said, Guan said with a meaningful smile. He was thinking about what sword technique to use to sweep away the battle court. At that moment, he felt something and turned his head towards the distance, a flicker of unusual light in his eyes. He was looking in the direction of the Supreme Sect. At the same time, on the remote Tai Tsong continent, Candle Star and Yi Tsong appeared beneath Long Qing's attic, while the soul of the heaven-supporting ancestor emerged from within Long Qing's body. He gazed up at the celestial vault, his brow deeply furrowed. "The battle court is truly fearsome," murmured the heaven-supporting ancestor to himself. Candle Star too looked up at the celestial vault, his face showing disbelief. The heaven-supporting ancestor turned to him and asked, "Aren't you also from the battle court? I heard you wanted the Supreme Sect to take the battle court's place?" Yi Tsong looked at Candle Star as well, detecting the sarcasm in the heaven-supporting ancestor's voice. Taking a deep breath, Candle Star said, "I didn't expect the battle court to have such depths. It seems that the existence has finished its seclusion and has called back those great powers who have been gone for so long. It's odd, he clearly despises the Long clan, and it was just those war gods targeting them," the heaven-supporting ancestor speculated. "After all, even the celestial spirit god has fallen, and yet the battle court still dares to come. It must have some confidence." Candle Star couldn't answer. His heart was in turmoil. The oppressive force of the battle court's arrival made him tremble with fear. He dared not imagine the sight of facing those war gods, especially that existence. That existence was the myth and legend of the battle court. Even though he had reached the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, he had never seen that existence. Clang! The door of the attic flew open and Long Qing walked out, descending the stairs at a steady pace, his expression calm. A figure abruptly appeared at the base of the stairs. It was Long Qing's son, Long Teng. "Father, what is the origin of the anomaly in the sky? Why do I feel my chi blood surging uncontrollably? I even feel," Long Teng asked with a furrowed brow. Long Qing reached the landing and looked down at him, even feeling hostility, murderous intentions? Long Teng's eyes widened in shock as he pressed, "Father, do you have the same feeling?" Long Qing continued down the stairs, his gaze shifting towards the celestial vault. "Some things are too late to tell you and there is no need for you to know. Just watch. Just watch. Father, what are you going to do?" Long Teng's eyebrows knitted again, an intense unease building within him. Long Qing stepped in front of him, giving the unnerving feeling that he could disappear at any moment, which instinctively made Long Teng reach out, attempting to grasp Long Qing's robe. Candle Star, Yi Tsong and the heaven-supporting ancestor, all aware of the Long clan's destiny, kept silent, their eyes fixed on Long Qing. Yi Tsong clenched his fists tightly, filled with reluctance. He had not expected the battle court to come so swiftly. 500 years was a long time for mortals, but for him, it was insufficient for his cultivation level to break through, far from enough to aid his master. Just feeling the vast oppressive force enveloping heaven and earth told Yi Tsong that he could not meddle in this karmic destiny. But, how would his master face it? Yi Tsong knew that his own cultivation level was not much higher than his master's, but his master's composure filled him with anticipation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 574. Annihilate completely. The celestial spirit great world's celestial vault was covered with black holes of varying sizes. Every creature within the celestial spirit great world, as long as they looked up at the celestial vault, would see such a phenomenon and become panic-stricken. Since the vast majority of living beings had never witnessed such a phenomenon in their lives, it was inevitable that they would be fearful. All the major sects quickly formed arrays and sent great power cultivators to observe the sky. The vast oppressive force of the battle court enveloped the entire great world, yet no creature from the battle court had appeared. Long Qing took 2 steps forward, looking at the myriad of black holes with an extremely calm expression. He had already prepared himself to die. Long Ting looked at his father's silhouette, unable to resist asking, "Father, what exactly are you planning to do?" Long Qing didn't answer him. The protective formation of the supreme sect rose up, and figures began appearing around the attic. They were either high-ranking individuals of the supreme sect or descendants of the Long family. After Long Qing issued a precautionary command, he no longer spoke, and no matter who asked him, he did not respond. Sar the novel Underschiffer. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Yitsong looked at his master, feeling extremely distressed. Just then, brilliant lights arose from the horizon, all of them entering the black holes within the celestial vault. The lights entered the black holes and disappeared without causing any disturbance, as if traveling through time and space. Far beyond, in the depths of the universe, a dark purple light path stretching millions of miles was rapidly extending. Figures were walking on the light path, with black holes continuously appearing on both sides. Some figures stepped into the black holes, while others stepped out from within. On this dark purple light path, leading at the front was a 9-headed flood dragon covered in black dragon scales. Its 9 necks were like mountains, and its 9 dragon heads continuously spewed intense heat waves. Source: web novel. Com, updated on Omicron New. This dragon was larger than any meteor it passed by, advancing like a creation god mountain, dignified and vast. Following behind it was an overwhelming march of creatures from the battle court, humans, demons and ghostly evils, all moving in the same direction. In the midst of this multitude, a sword cultivator advanced. He wore a red robe tightened at the waist, the sleeves broad. His features were young and handsome, and his hair was snow white. He looked ahead with furrowed brows. His name was Fang Xian, a renowned prodigy of the battle court who possessed the cultivation level of a profound yuan-free immortal. He was shocked by the sight before him. Having lived millions of years, it was his first time seeing the battle court amass such military force. Looking around, the terrifying aura emitted by those figures made him feel alienated. He even doubted if these people were from the battle court. Had he only been in seclusion for several 100,000 years for the battle court to have improved this much? Just to invade a great thousand world, is it necessary to send so many people? I heard that the silent destruction god emperor fell in that great thousand world, which is why there's such a massive mobilization. What? The silent destruction god emperor fell? How is that possible, being such an ancient being? We're going to the celestial spirit great world. This great world has just been reshaped. The world itself poses no threat to us, but there is an extremely terrifying being hiding inside, and it also intends to support the Long clan, which is provoking the battle court. The Long clan? They haven't been completely wiped out? Listening to the discussions around him, Fang Xian's mind conjured up an image of the silent destruction god emperor. He had only seen the silent destruction god emperor once when he went to listen to the emperor's doctrine. In his mind, the silent destruction god emperor's Tao practice was unfathomable, and even the high level of the battle court were very polite toward him. Such a being had actually fallen. Fang Xian felt uneasy. Although there were a lot of them, the more forces the battle court deployed, the more dangerous he felt this battle would be. The Tao practices of the high-level members of the battle court were beyond his imagination. Those beings certainly saw more than he did. Facing an unknown great battle, how should he ensure his own safety? Just as Fang Xian was lost in chaotic thoughts, from some of the black holes ahead flew out cultivators of the celestial spirit great world. When they saw the unending battle court light path, they were all startled. Before they could speak, nearby creatures from the battle court quickly took action. The great battle had officially commenced. Cultivators from worlds below the Zizai immortal realm had no power to resist. They were directly obliterated. Those with higher cultivation levels hurriedly escaped back into the black holes, through which they returned to the celestial spirit great world. Taoist field of the beginningless. All disciples had gathered in Guan's courtyard, curious about the celestial phenomena above. Guan didn't say much. With a wave of his sleeve, the blue smoke above the artifact refining cauldron condensed rapidly, forming a large mirror that reflected the majestic sight of the battle court light path. Anaxian, Shenzhen, Celestial Demon Child, and Blood Prison Great Saint looked up and were all stunned. On the transuniversal battle court light path, the crowd surged like a tide, the massive beings as large as mountains appearing even more fearsome. Along the end of the battle court light path, a terrifying huge shadow loomed in the deep darkness, revealing only its upper body as if carrying forward this vast light path single-handedly. The battle court light path in the hand of this huge shadow resembled a sword thrusting forward, a scene that shocked everyone's eyes. Celestial demon child couldn't help but turn her head to look at Guan and asked, "Master, who are they?" The others also turned to look at Guan. The usually loquacious blood prison great saint and Lvcien were also stunned. Facing such a force, they felt only apprehension in their hearts. Guan responded, "This is the battle court, a power from beyond the great thousand world." And Xan pressed further, "Why have they come?" The others were also puzzled, waiting for Guan to clarify. Guan did not conceal anything and revealed the grievances between the Long clan and the battle court. This grudge has lasted for many years. 20,000 years ago, there was an entity known as the Silent Destruction God Emperor who also came for the descendants of the Long clan, Guan said calmly. Chen Chuan couldn't help but say, to usurp their nest and to exterminate them, this lord of the battle court is really not anything good, and by the looks of it, they're likely aiming to take over the celestial spirit great world. The others also started cursing at the battle court. And Xian suddenly thought of something. She looked at Guan and timidly asked, "Master, you granted Long Qing the Long surname, could it be?" As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. They all knew Long Qing, who was personally taken in as a disciple by Guan. And Xian still remembered that Guan had previously refused to guide Long Qing in cultivation because Long Qing carried a great cause and effect. Guan nodded and said, "Yes, Long Qing is indeed a descendant of the Long clan." Everyone looked at each other after hearing this. Blood Prison Great Saint became excited and asked, "Master, will you take action?" The others also felt invigorated by this. They had practiced arduously in the dojo. The higher their realm, the more they revered Guan's cultivation level. They had always been curious about just how strong Guan was. Surely such a powerful battle court could force Guan to reveal all his strength? It is his destiny, why should I intervene? Being able to adopt him, I already took a great risk. Guan shook his head and chuckled. The others didn't buy it. In their eyes, Guan would surely protect Long Qing, just as he protected them. Jiang Shi lamented, "Who knows how many years of cultivation it will take before I can qualify to participate in such a great battle." Scenes of battle appeared in the mirror atop the artifact refining cauldron. Endless cultivators from the celestial spirit great world surged out of the black holes, blocking the battle court's advancement. Today's celestial spirit great world was far beyond the previous era's celestial spirit great heaven and earth, with an astonishingly consolidated power. Lvcien, Qin Chuan and others, seeing endless cultivators and demons entering the battle through the black holes, felt their blood boiling. Guan didn't immediately take action. He saw this calamity as a good thing, letting the beings of the great thousand world feel a sense of crisis. Moreover, this cause and effect had to be ended by the Long family themselves. Guan did not want to publicly tie himself with the Long family on the surface, waiting for Long Qing to be overwhelmed before intervening. On the other side of heaven and earth, Long Qing leaped up, flying towards the black hole in the sky. Candle Star transmitted to him saying, "Come with me, facing such a battle court, you have no chance of victory." Long Qing did not respond to him, nor did he look back. Candle Star stood in front of the pavilion, opening his mouth, but he ultimately could not muster the courage to go forward and fight alongside Long Qing. He knew full well the terror of the battle court, and crucially, the strength now displayed by the battle court was even more formidable than he had known. He sensed the determination of the battle court, vowing to completely annihilate the Long clan. Right in the celestial spirit great world. Watching Long Qing's figure disappear into the black hole, Long Ya looked at Long Teng anxiously asking, "Big brother, what exactly is father trying to do? Shouldn't we help him?" Long Teng was about to speak when a sonorous voice echoed through the entire great heaven and earth. "Descendant of the Long clan, you have stood up, and indeed, you have not dishonored the bloodline of the Long clan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 575. Dharma aspect shocks the heavens. The sudden voice plunged the entire celestial spirit great world into silence, and all living beings felt their hearts chill just hearing it. They couldn't imagine what kind of existence could possess such an imposing aura. Candle Star looked up at the celestial vault, his expression somewhat bewildered as he murmured to himself, "Master?" He understood that the Lord of the War Court used such terrifying power not only targeting to execute Long Qing, but mainly against the protector of the celestial spirit great world. Thinking of his master facing off against the fearsome being capable of annihilating a celestial spirit god, his emotions were complex. He also thought of the mythological beings of the war court, fearing that an unprecedented fierce battle was about to occur, one that would reduce the celestial spirit great world to ashes. He turned to look at his disciples gazing up at the celestial dome in the distance and couldn't help but sigh. After so many years at the supreme sect, he had grown attached to this place, but no amount of attachment was worth more than life itself. He had already forsaken the war court, and in the face of such a situation, all he could do was flee. He withdrew his gaze and disappeared into thin air in front of the pavilion. Long Ting Longya and the other cultivators around them hadn't expected him to flee. They thought he was going to support Long Qing, so they didn't think too much of it. The heaven-supporting ancestor re-entered Yitsong's body. His voice echoed in Yitsong's mind. There are many presences within the war court that are beyond my match. In the face of such a massive invasion, the celestial spirit great world stands no chance of winning. Candlestar has already fled and you should leave as well. Upon hearing this, Yitsong furrowed his brow, his gaze fixed on the black hole above. On the other side of heaven and earth. With the mountains undulating, Bai Sheng stepped out of the forest and stood on the hillside, gazing at the spectacular phenomenon in the sky, his brow furrowed deeply, his eyes full of shock. This was the second time in his life that his understanding had been overturned. Su Jin arrived at his side, equally shocked as she looked up at the celestial vault. Bai Sheng turned to look at her and asked, "What is this spectacle? How high is the realm of the person who just spoke? And what's the background of the Long clan?" Su Jin took a deep breath and said, "I'm not sure, I can't even guess his realm. You see, I've lived for over 10,000 years, could be influential in the imperial dynasty, but in the grand scheme of the great world, I'm just an inconspicuous minor character. To many of the great powers, killing me would be as simple as crushing an insect. As for the Long clan, I have never heard of them either. My understanding of the great heaven and earth is not as extensive as you imagine." Bai Sheng couldn't help remarking, "It's indeed true that there are always higher beings. If one day I can make a sound that resonates with all living beings across heaven and earth, then this life would have not been lived in vain." Sar the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Su Jin rolled her eyes at him, said with irritation, "You always talk like you're giving your last words. Can't you think about diligently cultivating and pursuing longevity? Is there really such a thing as immortality in this world? Even if one ascends to immortality, as you said, there is still an end to it." "I don't care, you must aim for it anyway." They began to bicker, unaware that this was a calamity sweeping across the entire world. In the vast and boundless universe, myriad black holes of all sizes dotted the cosmos, acting like channels through time and space, with figures emerging from them. Fang Xian walked on the battle court light path, looking ahead at the looming great battle with a calm expression. The celestial spirit great world erupted in astonishing solidarity, as more and more figures rushed in to block the advance of the war court, yet they did not slow down the pace of the war court's forces. Fang Xian didn't rush to take action. On this occasion he planned to do the bare minimum, and with the most terrifying existences yet to appear, he dared not act. "I am a descendant of the Long clan Long Qing. This causality should be borne by me." Long Qing's voice suddenly came, weak in the vast cosmos even though he shouted with all his might. Fang Xian caught the sound of Long Qing with the words Long clan, making it impossible for him to ignore. A pressure stronger than any of the combatants bore down, halting every living being engaged in the battle. A Taoist Zhang Zizai immortal from the celestial spirit great world showed a look of horror, unable to move under this overwhelming pressure. His pupils suddenly dilated, and following his gaze, an imposing figure in the darkness behind the battle court light path gradually became clearer. Fang Xian's gaze, however, looked in the direction of Long Qing's voice. Long Qing stepped out from a black hole, his right hand raised to his chest, his two fingers together. While moving through the air with floating steps, he was casting divine skills. Streams of gray mist emerged from his body, coalescing into figures around him. Furthermore, the space in the surrounding universe twisted, spontaneously producing more gray mist that continued to solidify into humanoid shapes. More and more gazes fell upon Long Qing, but no one from the war court side made a direct move against him. As Long Qing, who was executing the celestial dragon Dharma aspect, looked into the distance, a giant shadow gradually became clear. It was a black-robed Taoist with a Qilin headdress and a stern face. He floated like a mirage behind the battle court light path, with his lower half seeming illusory, and only his upper half clearly visible. It was the Master of Candle Star, the current Lord of the War Court. His title was the Candle Celestial Monarch. The Candle Celestial Monarch was so immense that everything in the universe seemed trifling in his presence, and to the celestial spirit cultivators witnessing this figure, he appeared as the founding god who created the cosmos. As the Candle Celestial Monarch emerged from the darkness, everyone from the side of the celestial spirit great world, except Long Qing, lost their courage and willingness to fight. It seemed as though the Candle Celestial Monarch had merely leaned forward. He looked down upon Long Qing, observing the Dharma aspects coalescing behind him, with an indifferent gaze, and he said, "Has your esteemed self not shown yourself yet? Could it be that you have given up on the Long clan?" This question likewise echoed throughout the celestial spirit great world. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, an Xian and the others one by one turned their heads to look at Guan Guan, holding the Xian Hong sword, said, "Why look at me? Qing Er's divine skills are not simple, perhaps he can resolve this on his own." As he spoke, he lifted the blade, his left hand supporting the edge, the tip pointing toward a mirror above the artifact refining cauldron, as if aiming at the Candle Celestial Monarch within it. Hearing this, though more confused, the crowd still turned their heads to look at the scene in the mirror. The world fell silent. All living beings waited for another voice to rise, but it never came. In the cosmic void, as the number of Dharma aspects behind Long Qing grew, the expressions of the powerhouses from the war court changed. In less than 10 breaths' time, the number of Dharma aspects surrounding Long Qing had exceeded 10,000, and one Dharma aspect, towering 10,000 zhang, radiated an aura of contempt for the universe, causing both celestial spirit cultivators and war court warriors to involuntarily fix their gaze on him. Long Yu, the voice of the Candle Celestial Monarch, rose as if murmuring softly. As soon as his voice fell, figures scattered apart, quickly surrounding Long Qing and his Dharma aspects, each figure emanating an unrivaled aura, using their own powerful presence to seal off Long Qing. Those celestial spirit cultivators who were suppressed by the Candle Celestial Monarch vanished into ash. Only cultivators far away survived, and those who had come forth from the black holes as reinforcements all stopped in their tracks, their attention entirely on Long Qing. The Dharma aspects summoned by Long Qing each radiated a brilliant light, converging into a sparkling region in the universe. Those dozen or so war court powerhouses were scattered around, as if enacting some kind of elusive formation to block the strong light emitted by the celestial dragon Dharma aspect. Such a rich force of karma. To summon so many powerful Dharma aspects with such cultivation level, the Long clan is indeed extraordinary. If that's all there is, it's not worth us joining hands. Perhaps the existence behind him has already fled. No one can afford the karma of acting against a celestial god. This divine skill seems to utilize bloodline karma. The war court powerhouses discussed among themselves, completely disregarding Long Qing. The distant Candle Celestial Monarch did the same, whether it was despicable of what stood behind Long Qing or contempt for Long Qing himself. Listening to the voices from all around, Long Qing took a deep breath, his eyes sharpened, and his face began to crack open as blood seeped out. The gray aura around him suddenly turned into a bloody one, and an even more terrifying figure rapidly took shape, as if a giant stood up behind him, quickly growing larger, surpassing the Dharma aspect known as Long Yu by the Candle Celestial Monarch. Upon seeing this Dharma aspect figure, the eyes of the Candle Celestial Monarch suddenly changed. "Kill him." The voice of the Candle Celestial Monarch rose, and as soon as the words were spoken, the war court powerhouses encircling Long Qing all made their move, with the force of thunder. The terrifying pressure coming from all directions made Long Qing feel as if he were being torn apart, yet he did not die. He looked up to see 100,000 zhang tall, blood-colored figure wielding a long spear with one hand, fending off the powerful mana coming at him from every direction. This blood-colored figure was clad in armor, his true face obscured, but he emanated an unrivaled and imperious aura. His appearance made everyone from the war court tense up. In the sea of people, Fang Xian's pupils trembled, and his heart was hit by a storm of shock. The cultivators of the celestial spirit great world were similarly dumbstruck. In that moment, even within the great heaven and earth, all living beings could see a blood-colored figure reflected in the celestial vault, towering high into the sky. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 576. Celestial destruction god, greater cause and effect. Looking at the blood-colored figure behind Long Qing, everyone from the battle court was shocked, for the figure's aura was immensely powerful, especially the spear in its hand, which emanated an extremely dangerous aura that seemed capable of collapsing the entire universe. Amid countless Dharma aspects, the blood-colored figure stood like Mount Tai surveying the surrounding peaks, shocking even Long Qing. In Long Qing's mind, the strongest should have been Emperor Longxin. He had managed to manifest the figure of Emperor Longxin, which was that enormous figure. Yet, Emperor Longxin appeared so weak in front of this blood-colored figure. After mastering the celestial dragon technique, Long Qing dared not casually manifest his Dharma aspect, as he only had one chance. This was his first encounter with the blood-colored figure. Somehow he knew the name of this figure. Long Mia. Long Qing had heard this name before, the grandson of Emperor Longxin, the son of Long Jun. He had heard Long Jun boast that Long Mia possessed the strongest talent within the Long clan, but after seeing the figure of Emperor Longxin, he believed Emperor Longxin was the strongest. Today he truly understood how terrifying the strongest figure of the Long clan could be. Long Qing's skin continuously cracked open, and blood incessantly seeped out. He quickly turned into a bloody figure, but his eyes were so bright. With his own strength, Long Mia demonstrated power that dominated the current battlefield against numerous strong members of the battle court. From afar, Candle's celestial monarch watched Long Mia frowning deeply. 10 innate golden immortals actually couldn't destroy this Dharma aspect. What was the origin of this Dharma aspect? The innate golden immortals who were casting spells were equally shocked. Their power was enough to destroy the universe, but they concentrated their mana together, trying their best not to affect the heavenly Tao. Yet, the existence they targeted would suffer a more intense impact. However, Long Mai's Dharma aspect easily resisted their attacks. How could they remain calm? Long Qing struggled to lift his right hand, and in an instant the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect holding the spear pushed forward, vigorously repelling several innate golden immortals and causing airwaves that shook the battle court light path. Almost instantly, all Dharma aspects surged like arrows, rushing toward the battle court light path. Long Qing was still performing the celestial dragon technique, continuously manifesting Dharma aspects, and joining the battle, while the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect continued to guard behind Long Qing. Everyone retreat. A great cultivator from the Tao court loudly commanded, and with someone leading, other hesitating cultivators quickly retreated to observe from a distance. The Long clan's Dharma aspects, like a grand army, swiftly advanced onto the battle court light path, as more and more battle court cultivators joined the fight. Fang Xian drew a sword, ready for battle, his gaze fixated on the blood-colored figure of Long Mia, his heart filled with astonishment. A loose immortal could summon such a formidable entity. Was this the Long clan? He had always failed to understand why the upper ranks of the battle court insisted on completely annihilating the Long clan, but now he understood. Facing such an enemy, it was indeed necessary to eliminate them completely. However, another thought uncontrollably popped into his mind. How did these high-level individuals snatch the battle court from the Long clan? As Fang Xian was lost in thought, a sword light streaked over his head, powerfully colliding with space, striking the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, which still defended with the spear in its hand. Two formidable forces collided, creating shockwaves that caused distant celestial spirit cultivators watching the battle to vanish in smoke and dust, while cultivators from the battle court side were protected by a force of destiny, spared from disaster. From afar, an energy barrier enveloped the battle court light path, defending against all impacts. In Taoist field of the beginningless within the courtyard, everyone intently stared at the artifact refining cauldron's mirror, watching the power standoff between Dragon Annihilation's Dharma aspect and Candle's celestial monarch, secretly terrified at the immense power before them, where every existing being between the two seemed insignificant. Furthermore, Candle's celestial monarch's aura could even reach into celestial spirit great world. They were fine, protected by the dojo, but the outer environment trembled, a catastrophe for mortal spirits. An Xan involuntarily looked at Guan, noting her master was still calmly watching the battle, and she was puzzled. "Master, why aren't you taking action yet? This isn't like him, and moreover, this calamity originates from Qing'er, he certainly won't stand by idly." Could it be that Master has already planned a response? It must be so. Master is always like this, claiming indifference, yet always ends up intervening. With that thought, Enzin's confusion cleared, replaced by exhilaration. In her heart, her master had always possessed great compassion to protect all living beings, and she had witnessed it many times. Even if Master wanted to leave, he would just disguise his identity and hide in another part of the world, showing that at heart, Master couldn't sever his ties to this land. Guan stared at the image in the mirror, hearing the thoughts of the crowd, especially those of an Xian. He felt both relieved and helpless. He was relieved that an Xian had always trusted him, but he felt helpless because his image in Nzin's mind was too great. Guan indeed had a strategy to cope. This calamity, originating from the grudge and karma of the Long clan, was different from previous calamities. It was a disaster of the Long family, triggered by his reincarnation body, and he would naturally resolve it. However, he would not do so as Guan but as Long Zhan. In this calamity he would not let the innocent die. The more evil the battle court behaved, the more it would provoke his desire to kill. His pupils flickered with a peculiar purple-golden flame. Have you already joined them? Guan stared at the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect in the mirror and muttered to himself. He felt the aura of the heavenly Tao emanating from the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect. This aura was similar to that of the celestial spirit god and the celestial extreme god. No wonder Long Mie could escape the karma of the Long clan. It turned out that a stronger force was shielding him from karma. But this time was different. Long Qing was using the karma from bloodlines, and as long as Long Mie did not change his physical body, the karma attached to the bloodline would still exist. Candle Celestial Monarch, being in the late stage of innate golden immortal realm and joined by 16 other innate golden immortals, was strangely unable to defeat the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect. Guan was curious about what cultivation level Long Mai's true self had reached now. Additionally, Guan noticed that these innate golden immortals had a different kind of destiny aura from the battle court. They originated from the battle court, but they bore the destiny of other forces more intense. This meant these innate golden immortals had other backgrounds. It seemed there were other calculations behind this battle. Guan began to look forward to the appearance of the immortal emperor. As for getting involved in more trouble, Guan was not too concerned. This battle would certainly allow him to reap a tremendous lifespan, and perhaps after some time he would break through to a higher realm. On the vast earth, countless fierce beasts were slaughtering each other, the ground split open, blood flowed into rivers and corpses were countless. The fierce ground battle continued, but the celestial vault was extraordinarily bright, with stacked clouds making the celestial vault appear even more expansive. A towering figure clad in blood armor stood proudly among the clouds. His hands hung naturally, his shoulder armor resembled a dragon, and his white hair fluttered in the wind, with a blood flower mark on his forehead. His face was handsome, but his gaze was so indifferent. He looked down at the slaughter below, his expression unchanged, but the reflection of Long Qing employing the celestial dragon technique flickered in his pupils. His figure was identical to the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect. Next to him stood a long spear, the body of the spear covered in blood scales, the spearhead like the claw of a true dragon, its tip refracting a cold light. A figure leapt up and landed beside him. This was a cyan-robed Taoist, standing on a red gourd, bearing an air of immortality and wearing a cynically amused smile. Celestial Destruction God, someone else is using your power again? How long will you protect them? The cyan-robed Taoist asked teasingly. Celestial Destruction God's expression remained indifferent as he calmly said, "It's not exactly using, that's their own capability." The cyan-robed Taoist raised his hand and drew a circle in front of him, revealing an illusion reflecting the battle outside the celestial spirit great world. The dragon annihilation Dharma aspect was so eye-catching. At its feet, a strong light gathered around Long Qing, who was continuously consolidating the Dharma aspect. The continuous Dharma aspect assaulted the battle court light path, with Candle Celestial Monarch stepping over from above, continuously approaching the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect. Those 16 innate golden immortals surrounded the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect, endlessly displaying divine skills and spells, shaking the entire universe. Sar the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The edges of the universe displayed twisting rainbows, the tremors were from the great Tao. So many innate golden immortals attacking a loose immortal, quite extravagant. Without your power this guy would have died long ago. Does this still count as his capability? The cyan-robed Taoist asked, half smiling. Celestial Destruction God was silent for a moment before saying, "This is a divine skill called Celestial Dragon Technique created by my grandfather. It gathers all those with bloodline karma through the bloodline, allowing them to form Dharma aspects to fight on their behalf. This child has summoned so many Dharma aspects, his lifespan will be exhausted. This is his last battle. Last battle? I doubt it. You always say this, yet you always end up intervening. Without your intervention, the Long clan would have perished long ago. The cyan-robed Taoist shook his head. To this, celestial destruction God did not respond. The cyan-robed Taoist continued, it won't be long before you can break through and reach a higher realm. Your immortal position could be promoted, and if you could be transferred back to the 3,000 great worlds, you would be able to protect your descendants. The reflection of Candle's celestial monarch gleamed in celestial destruction God's eyes, his gaze so cold, he watched Candle's celestial monarch continuously destroying the celestial dragon Dharma aspects, approaching his own Dharma aspect. This time, fate might be hard to escape with even stronger beings approaching. Celestial destruction God solemnly said, pausing momentarily before adding, no matter with me here, the bloodline can continue. When I return, I will let these folks experience the most painful torment of the Great Tao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 577, Ancestral Dragon War, the sword that cleaved the universe in the universe's void that constantly shimmered with bright light. The Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect wielded the gun shadow in its hand, blocking divine skills attacks from all directions, manifesting an unstoppable aura. More and more battle court powerhouses joined the surrounding attack, spreading out in different directions, beginning to form their formations with a majestic momentum. Above the head of the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, clouds of light tumbled, where dragon and phoenix phantoms intertwined, as if another dazzling heaven and earth were descending. As the number of battle court powerhouses involved in the battle soared, the aftermath grew rapidly stronger, with continuous black holes being annihilated, forcing celestial spirit cultivators to either flee back into black holes or retreat at full speed. The fleeing cultivators looked back, unable to conceal the horror on their faces. That person called Long Qing, who exactly is he? His cultivation level aura is clearly just a loose immortal. I've never heard of him, but the divine skills he's using are too terrifying, no wonder he has provoked so many powerful beings. So, in addition to chi absorption cultivation, cultivating divine skills can also lead to attainment. Since those guys are targeting that person called Long Qing, we indeed should not get involved. Today's battle has truly been an eye-opener for us. Within the great world, we swagger and dominate, but in outer heaven, there are far too many existences stronger than us. The celestial spirit cultivators discussed while fleeing, today's battle they would never forget the name Long Qing. On the other side, the Candle's celestial monarch had already arrived in front of the circle surrounded by innate golden immortals. He retrieved a golden pestle from his sleeves, which connected with 9 golden chains and had a silver blue gem embedded at the bottom. As it shook, a strange power of the great Tao burst forth, causing all living beings in the universe to feel dizzy. Source: Web Novel. Com. Updated on Omicron New 0. Long Qing maintained the gesture of deploying the celestial dragon technique, his body covered in blood, with bare white bones faintly visible on his elbow and shoulder. Staring at the golden pestle in the hands of the Candle's celestial monarch, Long Qing felt a strong sense of dread, and seeing that the other Dharma aspects could not shake the battle court light path, he felt desolate. I have already exerted my full strength, even summoning the most powerful ancestors. Why am I still unable to overcome them? Long Qing fell into confusion before the battle. He had been full of confidence, determined to face death. But when he actually faced the battle court, only then did he realize why his clan met such fate. Just thinking of Long Teng, Longya, and other descendants, he felt unprecedented fear. He had not yet had the chance to sever the connections with his descendants. If he died, they would have to die too. Even the entire celestial spirit great world might be destroyed. Long Qing's eyes filled with hatred. He would not allow such a thing to happen. Battle court. Long Qing gritted his teeth and growled lowly, his blood energy surged, and the aura of the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect suddenly increased. The Candle's celestial monarch noticed his anomaly, immediately swinging the golden pestle in his hand, with a burst of golden light accompanied by a scorching heat wave enveloping Long Qing and the Dharma aspects. In an instant, countless Dharma aspects were successively annihilated, leaving only Long Qing's skeleton, and his soul body also appeared. The Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect moved 1 foot backward, in a posture fully resisting. Outside the formation, all the battle court cultivators watched this scene, their faces showing frantic excitement. Fang Xian was also like this, staring at the golden pestle, his eyes burning hot. It was the battle court's treasure, known as the War God Golden Pestle, a treasure that all cultivators of the battle court yearned for. The War God Golden Pestle made the entire universe bright, stars rapidly burned, Tao's spiritual chi was burned into a hot mist. This golden light seemed capable of burning everything away. The Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect shook its arm. The gun shadow in its hand burst forth with terrifying blood energy, transforming into thousands of blood dragons, dispersing the vast golden light, rushing first to attack the Candle Celestial Monarch. The Candle Celestial Monarch's eyes turned cold. He leaped up, raising the War God Golden Pestle high and smashed it down towards the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, his figure no less than the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, his high position giving him an incredibly terrifying aura. Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The figure of the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect was reflected in the celestial vault of the Celestial Spirit Great World, and as the Candle Celestial Monarch leaped above the head of the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, his silhouette was also seen by the beings of the Celestial Spirit Great World. This scene caused all living beings to tremble in fear. No matter where they were witnessing this scene, their eyelids jumped wildly. Bang! The Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect raised its spear for a stab. The light cloud above was directly dispersed. Great magical power carrying a blood wind ascended, as if intending to pierce through the top of the universe. The Candle Celestial Monarch held the War God Golden Pestle to block the blood wind. But only for a moment. The Candle Celestial Monarch exploded with a sudden and violent storm of attacks, the War God Golden Pestle quickly swinging, and the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect similarly swung the gun shadow in its hand. Myriad illusions burst forth, as if two worlds were colliding. The earth and mountains shattered, ocean straits were destroyed, celestial beasts roared as they rushed towards each other, both vanishing into illusion. Various fantastical scenes unfolded, dazzling the observers. This was a collision of two Tao fruit worlds, a confrontation of the Tao. As the Tao generates all things, their every move contained myriad changes. The battle court cultivators watching were equally dumbfounded, unable to approach. They were barely holding on, maintaining the formation outside. Below the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, Long Qing, with only his soul attached to his skeleton, still retained his will. He could no longer see clearly what was around him. Everything in his eyes was shaking, his vision increasingly blurry. He struggled to think of his children, but his will was pulled down by an unprecedented heaviness. Just as he was about to despair, he instinctively thought of a figure. Master. Above the sea of clouds, the celestial destruction god and the cyan-robed Taoist were still watching the battle in the illusion. The cyan-robed Taoist clicked his tongue in wonder. He's about to give in. Your Dharma aspect is dispersing. Following his gaze, although the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect in the illusion was still maintaining its attack, the blood light on its body was dimming. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 577. Ancestral Dragon War, the sword that cleaved the universe. Understood. The celestial destruction god did not make a sound, but the coldness in his eyes grew more intense. Descendant, is this all you can achieve? Asterisk. The celestial destruction god pondered silently. Although he spoke of protecting the Long family if he was present, he understood in his heart that if Long Qing's lineage perished, the Long clan would cease to exist. After attaining the immortal class, he severed his ties with the mortal world. The reason he continued to protect his descendants was merely due to a fixation in his heart. He was unwilling to see the Long clan meet such a fate, but unfortunately he could not personally aid the Long clan. Asterisk. At that moment, a brilliant light burst forth in the apparition, erupting from the feet of the Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect, or rather, it was Long Qing who was radiating the light. Long Qing's soul body shone with an exceptionally bright white light. His flesh began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his will was also being restored. Asterisk. He was still thinking of his mentor when he suddenly felt a miraculous power burst from the depths of his soul body, different from the pain induced by the celestial dragon Dharma aspect. This power made him feel extremely comfortable, sweeping away his pain and fatigue. Asterisk. The Candle Celestial Monarch seemed to sense it and quickly retreated. The Dragon Annihilation Dharma aspect also stopped its actions. The 16 innate golden immortals presiding over the grand formation felt immense pressure, an invisible force pushing them back. They widened their eyes, their gaze fixed on Long Qing. Numerous cultivators from the battle court also looked towards Long Qing. Everyone watched as the intense light on Long Qing's body began to condense into a figure. This figure rapidly grew taller, the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect disintegrated, transforming into an endless stream of blood energy that surrounded this new Dharma aspect. The blood energy quickly faded from red. Fang Xian watched this figure rapidly rise, his heart pounding wildly. His intuition told him that the terrifying presence he feared most was about to reveal itself. Because the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect was reflected in the celestial vault of the celestial spirit great world, all living beings could see the new Dharma aspect. This new Dharma aspect shone with white light all over, quickly growing to the same size as the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect. Compared to the destructive aura of the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect, the aura of this Dharma aspect was even more vast and majestic, as if it hailed from the source of time, overlooking all transformations on the great Tao. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, an Xian, celestial demon child, and others watched more clearly through the mirror on the artifact refining cauldron. They all turned their heads to look at Guan, their expressions peculiar. LV Xian couldn't hold back and was the first to ask, "Master, isn't that Dharma aspect you?" The Dharma aspect condensing from Long Qing was in the form of Long Zhan. Although the attire's outline was different from Guan's, the posture and facial features were extremely similar to Guan. And how could it be such a coincidence? Long Qing was also Guan's disciple. Wasn't it said that the celestial dragon Dharma aspect could only summon his ancestors? Xinjin murmured. Her voice was light, but in everyone's ears, it was like a thunderclap. Could Guan be Long Qing's ancestor? The blood prison great saint's eyes lit up and he instantly believed it. Following Guan for so many years, seeing countless orphans, he had never seen Guan take in anyone else, and he had long noticed how much Long Qing resembled Guan. Guan remained calm, still staring at the mirror, merely having sheathed the Cyan Hong sword into its scabbard. Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, everyone could only refocus their gaze on the mirror. When the Dharma aspect on Long Qing thoroughly solidified, the terrifying pressure enveloping the celestial spirit great world rapidly dissipated, and all living beings breathed a sigh of relief. On the edge of the Tai Tsang continent, the waves crashed against the shore. Leah stood on the edge of a cliff, looking up at the celestial vault, his pupils trembling. Junior brother Gu, Leah did not know the celestial dragon Dharma aspect, but he immediately recognized that the Dharma aspect resembled Gu and junior brother Gu had saved the world once again, so junior brother Gu had never left. At this moment, Leah felt a strong fighting spirit arise. Junior brother Gu had not left, so he could not leave either. He resolved to stay in the celestial spirit great world, to protect all living beings. As for Zhang Buku, he had no leads to search for, so he decided it would be better to find them after attaining the Tao. Elsewhere, Bai Sheng looked up at the towering Dharma aspect, his expression peculiar. For some reason he found this figure somewhat familiar. Su Jin, however, did not think too much about it. Guan had not left a profound impression in her memory. She had disliked Guan from the beginning and naturally would not hold him in her heart. On the other side of the human world, on a barren plain, a man wrapped in a large robe walked through the wind and sand. He looked up and saw the massive Dharma aspect on the celestial vault. A look of shock appeared on his weathered face, but it quickly gave way to a smile. Guan, you're indeed still here. Martial resolution murmured to himself, then bowed his head, continuing to move forward against the wind and sand. Having glimpsed Guan, his heart was completely at ease. The heavens would not collapse and he could continue pursuing his destiny. The gaze of all living beings was focused on Guan's Dharma aspect. Aside from Guan's old acquaintances, the multitude of beings felt hope. At the first sight of this Dharma aspect, all beings felt a profound peace. This feeling was peculiar, yet it truly existed. Long Qing slowly raised his head to look and then stood there dumbfounded. After 2 breaths' time he suddenly turned around and soared into the air. When he arrived in front of the Dharma aspect, he was completely stunned. A name surfaced in his mind. Long Zhan. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He had heard of Long Zhan's name, the true primordial ancestor of the Long clan, the ancient existence that truly established the battle court, while Emperor Longxin merely inherited his legacy. He had actually summoned the primordial ancestor. But that wasn't the most crucial part. What shocked him was how much the primordial ancestor's face resembled his mentor's. No, it wasn't just a resemblance. It was his mentor. Suddenly he realized and all his doubts were dispelled. Why did his mentor choose to adopt him? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 577, Ancestral Dragon War, The Sword That Cleaved the Universe _3 Master, why do you want to help him fight against the silent destruction god Emperor? He suddenly became excited, enveloped by a huge surprise, trembling all over. The Long clan actually has such an ancestor. The voice of Candle's celestial monarch came through, filled with emotion. Just the dragon annihilation Dharma aspect alone was troublesome enough for him, and now the emergence of an even more daunting Dharma aspect gave him a chilling sense of an unbeatable adversary. He trusted his intuition. Master, it's time for you to make a move. The voice of Candle's celestial monarch rose again, teasing in tone. All the cultivators of the battle court looked towards Candle's celestial monarch, almost every one of them showing a bit of astonishment. In the hearts of the vast majority of battle court cultivators, Candle's celestial monarch was the strongest, and they had not expected him to have brought along his master. The master of the Lord of the War Court, could it be that ancient myth? As Candle's celestial monarch's words fell, a gigantic pair of eyes suddenly appeared in the darkness of the void behind him, looming over the entire battlefield. The stature of Candle's celestial monarch was colossal, taller than any mountain in the world, yet before these eyes he was less significant than their pupils. Faced with these eyes, every creature felt panic. The celestial vault of the celestial spirit great world also revealed these eyes, causing all beings to tremble with fear, unable to comprehend what the heavens and the earth were facing. They could only focus on Guyan's Dharma aspect. Perhaps this mysterious existence could protect them. Long Qing turned around and was equally frightened by the silhouette behind Candle's celestial monarch. What kind of eyes were those? He had lived for 20,000 years and, with the experiences of his previous life, had never seen such terrifying eyes, like the abyss of the universe, hiding the utmost horror and despair. He is not the person I am looking for, he is just an effect in Ka's Dharma aspect. A voice of cold indifference echoed through the universe, audible to all the myriad beings of the great thousand world. Each word trembled the hearts of all beings, as if the supreme heavenly Tao was declaring the laws of heaven. Candle's celestial monarch was about to speak, but another voice interrupted his thoughts. The one you seek may well be me. All the cultivators of the battle court turned their heads in unison, including the innate golden immortals and even those celestial spirit cultivators watching from the distant void. The voice came from the Dharma aspect behind Long Qing. Long Qing turned and clenched his excited fists tightly. That was his master's voice. His master was his primordial ancestor, Ancestral Dragon War. This fact did not cause him to crumble, rather he felt fortunate. The person he most revered was his ancestor. It felt like a dream. Guyan's Dharma aspect lifted his right hand, a myriad of silver lights appeared in his palm, quickly converging into a sword. The moment he grasped the sword, Guyan's voice rang out again, break! Ping! Space shattered like a mirror, all beings were frozen in place, including the innate golden immortals unable to move. They saw a dense expanse of spatial fragments before them, where a more majestic figure appeared behind Candle's celestial monarch. It was a man in a white robe with yellow withered hair longer than his robe, his face shriveled like skin stretched over bone, his eye sockets deep set. The entirety of his appearance was shockingly terrifying. It was the Immortal Emperor. The Immortal Emperor's face showed astonishment. Long Qing, too, was startled by the sudden appearance of the Immortal Emperor. Then his attention was caught by the sword light. Glancing inadvertently, he saw a silver blade, spanning longer than the heavens and the earth, slash before him, as if a mythological celestial river had appeared. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. That was the sword in Guyan's Dharma aspect's hand. Long Qing couldn't move, he could not even hear any sound. Not just him, all beings had lost their hearing, unable to act, merely witnessing the Dharma aspect raising his sword to strike at Candle's celestial monarch and the Immortal Emperor. All the cultivators of the battle court were plunged into extreme terror because they realized that Candle's celestial monarch and the being behind him also could not move, as if waiting to be beheaded by the enemy. With one slash from Guyan, the sword light burst forth, too fast for even the vision of innate golden immortals to fully capture. The universe seemed split in two by it, a sight profoundly awe-inspiring. In an instant, Candle's celestial monarch was reduced to ash, the Immortal Emperor slashed by the sword light, eyes widening in shock. Space busted once more, the shattered fragments quickly dispersing as though illusions striking the senses of all beings. Before they could react, a roar of outrage erupted, Upon uttering just one word, the immortal emperor's flesh erupted in 1,000 sword lights, followed by annihilation, becoming dust, gone from existence. The entire universe fell into silence for a moment. The sword light that had bisected the universe still hung in the air, as the cultivators who regained their senses looked towards both ends to discover they could not see the end of the sword light, as if the entire universe was indeed cut in half by it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 578, Reverse Cause and Effect. Annihilate Battle Court Candle Celestial Monarch, Immortal Emperor extinguished. All the cultivators from the battle court were unable to accept this reality, and they all stared blankly at the sword light spanning the universe. They could not move, the scene before them sending chills down their spines, driving them to despair. Fang Xian stood in the void, his eyes wide open, the universe trembling in his eyes, his heartbeat was so intense. It's over. Fang Xian fell into an abyss of despair. Since entering this universe he had speculated that the battle court might fail, but he never imagined that Candle Celestial Monarch and Immortal Emperor would be so powerless to defend themselves. Just who was that divine figure? How high was their cultivation level? Fang Xian glanced at the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect on Longqing's body, filled with shock. All beings in the universe looked toward the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect with disbelief in their eyes, and although the beings in the Celestial Spirit Great World didn't know the specifics of the battle, the disappearance of those mysterious giant eyes gave rise to hopes in their hearts. Could it be a victory? Longqing had seen his master win many times before, but each victory still scared him. Just how profound was his master's Tao practice? It felt like no matter how strong the opponent, they were effortlessly defeated before his master. Karma retribution, no one can escape it. Today the battle court sought to exterminate my Long clan, I will exterminate the battle court in return. With but a single swing of my sword, life and death are your own fate. You should all feel fortunate, for if you faced the battle court, you wouldn't even have a chance to live. The voice of Guan rang out once more, plunging all the battle court cultivators into the depths of despair. Without giving them time to think, the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect lifted its sword and slashed horizontally. A sword light swept across all directions, passing over the battle court light path, over the battle court cultivators surrounding Longqing. 16 innate golden immortals turned to ash first. The other cultivators met the same end. Longqing looked around to see the spectacle of enemies being extinguished everywhere, a sight tremendously grand. At the same time, inside the Taoist field of the beginningless, prompts kept popping up before Guan. You have successfully stolen 309,872,265 years of lifespan from Jinren Chenyang, early stage of innate golden immortal realm. You have successfully stolen 870,928,711 years of lifespan from Xingxing Dao, middle stage of innate golden immortal realm. You have successfully stolen 1,087,249,720 years of lifespan from Yi Yuelan, early stage of innate golden immortal realm. Watching the prompts before his eyes, the corners of Guan's mouth curled up. The strength of the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect was not solely attributed to the profound mysteries of the Celestial Dragon Dharma aspect, but also to Guan's own power. After all, he intended to steal lifespan, so he poured his own power into the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect to make the strike through it. And Xan, LV Xian and others turned their heads toward Guan, seeing him with a slight smile. Everyone could feel his triumphant spirit. People couldn't help but reveal looks of adoration and fervor. Blood Prison Great Saint even couldn't help but shout in excitement, breaking the silence of the courtyard. My heavens, one sword strike to annihilate the battle court? Master, what swordsmanship was that just now? Master, exactly who are you within the Long clan? That's just inconceivable. The person who appeared just now seems so terrifying, yet they couldn't withstand a single strike from the master. Guan didn't respond. He was immersed in the joy brought about by the surge in his lifespan. The Dragon Battle Dharma aspect with a single strike exterminated 70% of the beings of the battle court, leaving the 30% who harbored no karmic enmity with the Long clan. These beings, terrified out of their wits, would also leave the battle court in the future. This was the way of cause and effect. Through karmic deduction, Guan knew which people could be spared. In doing so, he could also seem less bloodthirsty, thereby concealing his ability to take lifespan. But soon Guan noticed something was amiss. Many of the deceased battle court cultivators had not brought him lifespan, But those 16 innate golden immortals had brought him over 800 billion years of lifespan. This time, you cannot escape. The battle court must be eradicated. Guwen thought silently, his eyes transforming, turning into the immortal emperor's eye. Everyone in the courtyard saw the change in Guwen's eyes, and they all stopped their discussions, curiously watching him. Let all beings treat it as if it were just a dream. Guwen's voice sounded, and the immortal emperor's eye burst forth with a peculiar purple light, illuminating the faces of everyone in the courtyard. All beings between heaven and earth were like this, their vision of the world shrouded in purple light. This purple light burst forth from the celestial spirit great world and swept across the entire cosmos. This was the first time Guwen used his immortal emperor's eye divine power. The immortal emperor's eye would cultivate different divine powers in different people, and Guwen's divine power was different from that of the eternal great emperor. His divine power could reverse the way of cause and effect. He could restore lost lives and vanished fortunes within a short time to their original state and use this divine power to make what should have existed cease to exist, erasing their cause and effect without leaving a trace within the Tao rules. Using this divine power would not change time or space. Guwen used the immortal emperor's eye divine power to revive the celestial spirits who had previously died in battle. On the battle court side, only one person was resurrected from death, but before that person could react, they were extinguished anew. After this test, Guwen confirmed that this divine power could not bring him repeated lifespans. Although he had some regrets, Guwen was already very satisfied. Everyone in the courtyard only felt their divine souls turned upside down, their consciousness blurry, as if they were about to fall into a dream. It was not just them, all beings within the cosmic void felt the same. One by one, beings who had already died began to come back to life. After regaining vitality, they did not open their eyes but instead stayed in place with their eyes closed. The cosmic void fell into silence as the sword light cut by the dragon battle Dharma aspect gradually dissipated. Long Qing's consciousness also sank into darkness. Already exhausted, he relaxed and immediately fell into a dream. He dreamt that he was back in the Third Medicine Valley. The weather was clear, the sun bright, and the disciples were coming and going with their labor. The sight brought a smile to his face. Indeed, a peaceful life suited him better. Long Qing remembered the previous great battle, and his smile grew even brighter. Am I already dead? Long Qing murmured to himself. Everything around him was so beautiful, too good to be true that he thought he was going to die, that this was a pre-death fantasy. Using the celestial dragon Dharma aspect meant sacrificing himself, and he had been prepared for this, so he was not panicked. Thinking of his master's strength excited him. His master turned out to be his primordial ancestor, which made him worry even less. Once he died, his master would surely take care of his descendants. He knew his master well. Despite speaking harshly, his master was softer-hearted than most people in the world. Dying is not so easy. A voice came from behind Long Qing, startling him into quickly turning around to see Guwen approaching. He was surprised and bowed in greeting immediately. See Tich Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. When Guwen reached him, he said with a wry smile, "Teacher? Primordial ancestor, I used the celestial dragon Dharma aspect, and after using it, I must die." Guwen looked at him and said, "Although the celestial dragon Dharma aspect was created by Long Xayan, this divine power originates from my own celestial dragon reincarnation Dharma aspect. I can let you live, but from now on you must never use the celestial dragon Dharma aspect again, or you will suffer from karma retribution, and even I won't be able to save you." These words were true. He saved Long Qing by using the power of cause and effect. After hearing this, Long Qing was overjoyed and knelt down to thank Guwen. Guwen didn't stop him. Looking down at him he said, "When I was Long Zhan, I was killed by someone. Even after I obtained cultivation far surpassing my killer, I did not seek revenge, for I thought Long Zhan deserved to die. From now on, with no battle court to threaten the Long clan, your descendants can start over, but make sure not to take the wrong path, or I will personally exterminate the Long clan." Long Qing looked up and hurriedly promised, "I will not disappoint you." Guwen spoke with deep seriousness. Having ended the fate and grudges, the Long clan should also atone for their past mistakes. As for how, that's up to you. After speaking, Guwen turned and left. Long Qing stood up and asked, "Primordial ancestor, where are you going?" Without turning back, Guwen replied, "To utterly annihilate the battle court so it ceases to exist." As his voice fell, Guwen's figure disappeared. Long Qing stared in the direction of his departure, struggling to remain calm. I really should think about what goals I should work towards in the future. Long Qing thought of the words Guan said to him when Yitsong forced his way into the supreme sect. After the excitement, a sense of guilt surged in his heart. Always having the elder clean up after him, when would he be able to repay his teacher? No, to repay his primordial ancestor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 579. Abyss Dao C, Annihilation of the Battle Court above the clouds. The celestial destruction god and the cyan-robed Taoist gazed at the illusion before them, remaining silent for a long time. The cyan-robed Taoist took a deep breath, turned his head toward the celestial destruction god and asked, "Does your long family still have such remarkable figures?" The celestial destruction god's expression grew even more complex, his heart filled with mixed emotions. He had never met Long Zhan, which meant the latter had died before he was born. He thought of the ancestors his father had mentioned. When he had first displayed his talent, his father had said it was a family trait, all stemming from the ancestor Long Zhan. However, since the ancestor Long Zhan had died shortly after surpassing the 9 heavens of the immortal path, he had never been considered strong in his eyes. Having seen him today, he felt that even if he faced him in person he would not be his match, which was beyond his comprehension. Could it be that the ancestor Long Zhan had faked his death, and the fortune he now enjoyed was due to Long Zhan's protection from beyond? The more the celestial destruction god thought about it, the more confused he became. The cyan-robed Taoist clicked his tongue in wonder. Speaking of which, the Tao rules there are so perfect, it must be the great thousand world. How could such a grand battle not alarm the celestial gods? Could it be that the celestial gods of that realm have met with disaster? If that is indeed the case, then it's likely they died at the hands of... Before he could finish his sentence, the celestial destruction god's cold gaze fell upon him. The cyan-robed Taoist chuckled and did not continue. He waved his hand to dissipate the illusion before them and then looked down at the ground below, lamenting, "The slaughter over there has ended, but the killing here is endless." The celestial destruction god also looked down, his expression returning to its previous indifference. In a bright palace, above was a sea of clouds and below the ground mist tumbled. The immortal emperor jolted awake, sitting on his throne, gasping for air with bloodshot eyes. Behind his throne floated a massive silvery white meteor, pitted and scarred, but surrounded by streams of gray mist that seemed to follow some mysterious pattern, utterly bizarre. The immortal emperor looked up, his eyes filled with shock and fury. "Who, exactly are you?" The immortal emperor had expected failure, but he had not anticipated the gap between that person and himself to be so vast. The thought that all 16 of his innate golden immortal disciples had died made his heart bleed. He stood up and turned to the meteor behind the throne, his eyes seething with indignation. "Didn't you say that person was just a heaven-balancing golden immortal? Why couldn't I even withstand one of his moves?" The immortal emperor demanded in a deep voice, his tone barely concealing his murderous intent. The mist around the meteor quickened its pace and a cold voice emerged. "I miscalculated." "Miscalculated? My 16 disciples, having no destiny with the battle court, died utterly, and 7 among them had supreme potential for the Abyss Dao Sea. Compared to me they were still so young to die in that great thousand world. Do you understand what that means to me?" The immortal emperor spoke through gritted teeth, a gray mist more ominous than that surrounding the meteor emanating from his body, like blazing flames. "It's not like I forced you. You were drawn in by the treasures of the immortal palace, weren't you?" The icy voice sounded again. "You..." Just as the immortal emperor was about to continue, a hand suddenly rested on his shoulder, freezing his expression. Before he could turn his head, the hand on his shoulder squeezed forcefully, turning him into ashes as the figure of Guan appeared. "You have successfully seized 18,208,547 years of lifespan from the immortal emperor, late stage of heaven-balancing golden immortal realm." Guan looked disdainfully at the notification that popped up before him. Not even as much as the lifespan of an innate golden immortal. The seized lifespan was about 1/10 of the victim's remaining lifespan, meaning the immortal emperor could have lived another 1 to 200 million years. Named immortal, it signified he had lived an exceedingly long age. Perhaps it was precisely because he sensed his time running out that the immortal emperor had not even as much lifetime left as the smallest part of the lifespans of those 7 innate golden immortals. Those 7 innate golden immortals had brought Guan more than 700 billion years of lifespan, meaning each of these 7 had at least 100 billion years of lifespan. According to Guan's observations, An innate golden immortal should have a lifespan ranging from 5 trillion years. Guan's thoughts flashed by in an instant as he looked unflinchingly at the silvery white meteor before him. Who exactly are you to find this place? Have you reached the Taiching golden immortal realm? The previously cold voice speaking to the immortal emperor resonated once more, this time with a tinge of nervousness. Guan slowly raised his right hand, forming a claw, and pulled a figure out from within the meteor, his throat smashing against Guan's palm. This was an elder wearing a gray robe, his face gaunt, his white hair tied back, more presentable than the immortal emperor, but the terror on his face made him appear disheveled and weak before Guan. Fellow Taoist, let's talk this out. The gray-cloaked elder gritted his teeth and said, I hail from the Abyss Tao Sea. If I were to die they will surely notice. You, hiding in the great thousand world, wouldn't want to tangle with more trouble, would you? From the moment Guan entered the hall, he realized he couldn't move, which filled him with indescribable panic. He couldn't understand how Guan had found this place. Jinren Ni Hai, late stage of Hengtian Golden Immortal Realm Perfection 49,802,308,928, 702/50, 000, 000, 000, 000/50, 000, 000, 000, 5 trillion years lifespan. See Tich Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. That is to say, the lifespan of a heaven-balancing golden immortal ranged from 5 trillion to 50 trillion years. Too bad, yet another one close to his life's end. It's true, who would risk everything unless they felt their limit approaching? Guan couldn't be bothered to communicate with Jinren Ni Hai. His eyes suddenly changed. This time, it wasn't the immortal emperor's eye divine power, but the calamity absolute eye. He was going to search Jinren Ni Hai's soul. In an instant, Jinren Ni Hai's eyes lost their luster. The hall then fell into silence. Guan rudely probed Jinren Ni Hai's memory, completely disregarding his soul, and during this process, calamity slowly began to latch onto Jinren Ni Hai's body. Jinren Ni Hai came from the Abyss Tao Sea and had a not insignificant friendship with the immortal emperor. 10,000 years ago, Jinren Ni Hai was a guest at the battle court when he accidentally heard Candle's celestial monarch complaining to the immortal emperor about the resurgence of remnants from the Long clan who had killed a being known as the Silent Destruction God Emperor. Learning that people from the Long clan were in the celestial spirit great world, and that the shattered celestial spirit great world was beginning to reshape itself, he thought of the treasure of the immortal palace. The celestial spirit immortal venerable, who established the celestial spirit great world, stole the treasure of the immortal palace. By decree of the celestial court, they ordered the celestial spirit god to execute him, but the celestial spirit god did not obliterate the celestial spirit great world. Thus, rumor suggested the treasure of the immortal palace might still be hidden within the celestial spirit great world, and the celestial spirit god was waiting for this treasure. As for informing the celestial court, that would not be possible. The celestial court snubbed contact with the great thousand world, and even a powerful being like Jinren Ni Hai had only ever encountered the guardians, the celestial gods, of the great thousand world. Every celestial god was arrogant, looking down on mortal spirits. Without obtaining the celestial Tao immortal position, even if one's cultivation level was higher than a celestial god, they would be disregarded, and ordinary people would not dare to provoke a celestial god. The celestial gods had the supreme celestial court standing behind them, an existence beyond provocation. The so-called Immortal Palace was also a palace belonging to the Celestial Court. How the news of the Immortal Palace's treasure was leaked was something Jinren Ni Hai had no idea about. He only knew the clues to the Immortal Palace's treasure. The Celestial Spirit Immortal Venerable had already perished, but the whereabouts of the Immortal Palace's treasure remained unknown. Guan surmised that the Celestial Spirit Immortal Venerable had left the Immortal Palace's treasure to Enhao. Although Enhao had perished, he was a being born of the destiny fostered by heaven and earth, destined to be reborn one day. However, at that time he might no longer be Enhao but become someone else. Guan was quite interested in the Abyss Tao Sea, having encountered this place when he had chosen to break through his lifespan. In Jinren Ni Hai's memory, the Abyss Tao Sea did not belong to the Great Thousand World but lay in a mysterious region beyond it, an ocean formed by the Tao rules, boundless and vast. It was said that since its birth, the Abyss Tao Sea had been expanding infinitely and had not stopped until now. Even Jinren Ni Hai, who was born from the Abyss Tao Sea, did not know its full extent. As Guan was searching Jinren Ni Hai's memory, a series of footsteps could be heard. The hall was vast and at the far end, A strong light was visible. Candle's celestial monarch stepped out from the brilliance, his figure flickering rapidly as he advanced toward Guan suddenly. He stopped walking, frowning as he looked at Guan's back figure. Guan's attire was different from the dragon battle Dharma aspect, so he didn't recognize him immediately. He didn't even associate Guan with the dragon battle Dharma aspect, considering how far this place was from the celestial spirit great world. How could the one who killed him come back to life faster than him, when he had just been resurrected? Who are you? Candle's celestial monarch frowned and asked. Although the immortal emperor was often in seclusion, he always received fellow Taoists, and the immortal emperor's disciples were numerous too. His divine sense couldn't come close to Guan and he couldn't see the scene in front of Guan. Guan slowly turned around, and it was then that Candle's celestial monarch saw the person Guan was holding in his hand. Candle's celestial monarch's pupils contracted sharply, instinctively drawing out the war god golden pestle. He remembered Jinren and Hai, an ancient presence, whom the immortal emperor treated with notable respect, leaving a deep impression on him. You, Candle's celestial monarch wanted to ask more, but Guan spat out a word interrupting him, die. Candle's celestial monarch's eyes widened, and he instantly turned into a mist of blood. Longevity true words. This was Guan's Tao fruit divine power, using the power of cause and effect to determine Candle's celestial monarch's death, possessing the subtlety of speaking and making it so. Following that, the Jinren and Hai in Guan's hands also turned to ash, and his gaze shifted to the outside of the hall. Numerous palaces entered his view, countless marvelous sights, and mythical beasts were taken in by his eyes. The colossal entities that dominated many universes were about to become illusory in Guan's eyes. Everything that belongs to Longzhan should come to an end. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 580, Descending into the Abyss. Tao Sea Battle Court, as a transcendent power above the Great Thousand World, had countless creatures under its command, many of whom were compelled to serve. Guan even saw numerous races enslaved, mining cultivation resources for Battle Court. He stood in the Grand Hall of the Immortal Emperor and drew the Cyan Hong sword from his waist. Although the Cyan Hong sword was just an ordinary treasure sword, it was his favorite because it was a gift from Yilan. He swung the sword forward casually, effortlessly, yet with that very strike, he severed the destiny of Battle Court. He began to eradicate those creatures of the Long clan who harbored resentment, using the power of karma. He simply needed to calculate who would target the Long clan afterwards. In addition to these, Guan also dealt with those Battle Court creatures who had committed excessive killings. The number of creatures under Battle Court was vast, and to kill them all would undoubtedly bring great trouble, especially if it provoked the Celestial Court. Although Guan's Tao practice was profound, he was yet unable to deduce the karma of Celestial Court. With the power of karma, the enemy was killed invisibly. As the destiny of Battle Court collapsed, palaces, cities and towers standing in the starry sky began to crumble. Many creatures tried to flee, but their vision blurred, and their consciousness plunged into darkness. They died, their Tao perished. The disaster came so suddenly that all the deceased had no time to react. Those cultivators who had just been revived through the destiny of Battle Court were still discussing the terrifying nature of the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect when they perished in succession. Those cultivators who died later suffered the most, despair assaulting their spirits. They were helpless and could only wait. A loud uproar erupted from Battle Court, but soon the noise disappeared. The universe gradually darkened, heralding the quiet death of a massive entity born from the Tao rules. Fu! Feng Xian suddenly opened his eyes, panting heavily, covered in sweat, his bloodshot eyes filled with fear. He sat up and turned his head, finding himself in a desolate mountain. The sparse spiritual energy here made him instantly realize this was a mortal realm. Am I not dead? Feng Xian was overjoyed. If he had died and was now revived, he should have been inside Battle Court. This meant his adversary had spared him a path to life. Even if he could revive inside Battle Court, Feng Xian did not want to die, as it would diminish his cultivation level and destiny. Thinking of the heavy losses in Battle Court, Feng Xian felt that its vital energy was severely damaged, and it might face attacks from other enemies later on. Battle Court, no return. Feng Xian felt that the terrifying entity from the celestial spirit great world would continue to retaliate against Battle Court. He stood up, the sunlight falling on him, giving him a feeling of rebirth. The higher-ups of Battle Court are too foolish to provoke such beings. I need to seek a new way to survive, Feng Xian murmured to himself, still shivering from the thought of the previous battle. He dared not be an enemy of that terrifying entity any longer, hoping only to be as far from it as possible. He leaped toward a direction, soaring through the sky like a startled swan, disappearing in an instant. Taoist field of the beginningless. In the courtyard, Guan stood before an artifact refining cauldron observing the Tao treasures inside. Celestial demon child stood by his side, curiously watching him. Half a month had passed since the destruction of Battle Court. All beings felt as if they had dreamt it all. After this calamity, the various sects of the celestial spirit great world felt pressure and no longer acted so carelessly. The whole world initiated a trend of seclusion. Master, is Battle Court truly extinct? Celestial demon child couldn't help asking. Guan casually responded, whether it's extinct or not, what does it have to do with you? Focus on your cultivation. The cultivators outside are now striving harder than ever. He thought about breaking through. After this battle, it was time for him to break through. He brought up his attribute panel to take a look. Saw the oval fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Name, Guan, lifespan, 22, 098/831, 008, 678, 146. Physique, primordial reincarnation undying body. Cultivation level, Tai Ching golden immortal realm perfection, 8,300,000,000,000 years of lifespan. This battle had increased his lifespan by 6,700,000,000,000 years, surpassing 20,000 years of labor. Not only that, but he had also scoured many treasures from the battle court. He planned to distribute half into the celestial spirit great world as opportunities for all beings. To eliminate the grudges for the Long clan, he had wiped out all beings within the battle court that could potentially threaten the Long clan. The number was vast, stirring emotions within him. Though the beings of the battle court hadn't been annihilated, from now on, the battle court would be no more. Guan could feel many strong forces of cause and effect approaching the celestial spirit great world, mostly out of curiosity. The destruction of the battle court ultimately drew the attention of many powerful forces. I will work hard to cultivate, but I don't know how many years it will take to reach the Zizai immortal realm. The more I cultivate, the more I feel the gap between us. How many years have you lived exactly? The celestial demon child asked wistfully, a frequent topic of private discussion among them. Everyone felt that when they met Guan, he already possessed his current strength, as they had never seen him in disarray. Not to mention disarray, they had never even seen Guan look anxious. With such an invincible cultivation level, it was indeed difficult to be nervous. Guan turned to look at the celestial demon child and rubbed her head without saying anything. He merely answered in his heart. Actually, I'm not much older than you. The celestial demon child continued chattering. She seemed to have an endless stream of questions to ask. As long as it didn't involve his own cultivation level, Guan would answer patiently. His mind, however, was already drifting to breakthroughs. 8,300,000,000,000 years of lifespan, should that be enough for him to break through to a higher realm? He hesitated over whether to wait for the new function after 1,000,000,000,000 years, but thinking about those powers pressing close to the celestial spirit great world, he felt he couldn't wait. A breakthrough must come first. Guan's expression hardened, deciding to break through tonight. In the following time, disciples from the dojo paid him visits one after another, keeping the courtyard lively. As the sun set and the moon rose, Guan spoke to Shenzhen, who was guarding the artifact refining cauldron, and then walked out of the courtyard. Under the moonlight, the Taoist field of the beginningless was adorned with numerous medicine gardens and some spectacular trees. Some were surrounded by faint glimmers, others twisted their vines, vibrant and full of life. Guan walked along, enjoying the scenery of the dojo. He was quite pleased with the ghost mother of ephemera. She not only helped increase production but also made the dojo more beautiful. Having a delightful environment was always a benefit. Reaching the edge of the dojo, Guan stopped by a lake and began initiating his lifespan breakthrough. You have activated the lifespan breakthrough function. Based on your current realm, select from the following breakthrough locations. 1. Path of the Great Tao, 2. Celestial Extreme 9 Heavens, 3. Abyss Tao Sea, 4. Ascending to Yellow Heaven, 5. Ling Mountain, 6. Endless Jade Pool, 7. Immortal Cave Heaven, 8. Sea of Suffering, 9. Taiwei Great World. Seeing the option for the Abyss Tao Sea, Guan suddenly became intrigued. It had only been a month, and perhaps the Abyss Tao Sea hadn't yet dealt with Jinren and Ai's death. If he attempted his breakthrough there and created a significant disturbance, the Abyss Tao Sea might put Jinren and Ai's death out of their minds. After all, the lifespan breakthrough would send him to a temporarily safe location, and with the protection of the lifespan barrier he should be fine. According to Jinren and Ihai's memories, the Abyss Dao Sea was boundlessly vast. The place he would arrive was likely far from any power. Having thought it through, Guan made his choice. Transporting to the Abyss Dao Sea requires 10 billion years of lifespan. Continue? Continue. Guan then felt a bout of dizziness and his vision blurred. He patiently waited, excited about the prospect of surpassing the Taiching Golden Immortal Realm and reaching an unprecedented realm. Having lived for over 20,000 years, there were few things that could excite him these days, but growing stronger always made him happy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 581, Breakthrough to the Late Stage of Heaven. Opening Daluo Immortal Realm. Guan opened his eyes, and what entered his vision was a dim cosmos, with Dao mist swirling in all directions, filling him with exhilaration. He immediately activated the lifespan barrier and then observed the Abyss Dao Sea once more. Under his feet was also a spirit mist, yet it gave him a sense of solid ground. This universe was dark, bereft of the light of stars. Instead it had rivers of light flowing in different directions, bringing a faint glow to the cosmos. No wonder it bore the name Abyss. The longer one stayed here, the more they could sense an aura of deathly stillness. It was as if terrifying entities could burst out from the depths of darkness in any direction at any moment, tearing a person to shreds. Guan's heart eye saw a distant place where there was a floating city, massive as half of the celestial spirit great world, with 36 black towers standing outside, each entwined with a black dragon, ominously thrilling. Abyss Emperor City. Sar the novel Undershafar. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Jinren and Ihai was affiliated with this city. Within the Abyss Dao Sea, this city counted as an overlord-level force. There existed Taiching Golden Immortals within, and even Jinren and Ihai, of those he had seen, could count 5 Taiching Golden Immortals on one hand. Though he was affiliated with this city, Jinren and Ihai's understanding of it was far from thorough. Inside Abyss Emperor City, the hierarchy was strict, with a single realm's difference being akin to that between immortals and mortals. It is said that a Taoist emperor opened the Abyss Emperor City, a figure whose destiny was recognized by the Tao rules. Within their own realm, a Taoist emperor often possessed the ability to face 100 enemies alone, which drew quite a number of Taoist emperors to the Abyss Emperor City. When Jinren and Ihai first entered the heaven-balancing Golden Immortal Realm, he faced the oppression of a Taoist emperor. On that day, this being, who could have roamed invincibly across the great thousand world, knelt like a dog in front of his oppressor, enduring humiliation. It was not that Jinren and Ihai was weak, but rather that his opponent had the power to eliminate him. At the brink of collapse, he chose to beg, a memory deeply buried within his heart, not even known by the immortal emperor. It was precisely because of this memory that Jinren and Ihai chose to leave the Abyss Emperor City. Immortal Emperor befriended him, wanting to join the Abyss Emperor City through him. He did indeed help, but even with his assistance, it was difficult for Immortal Emperor to gain a foothold in Abyss Emperor City. To cultivate his own faction over the long years, the Immortal Emperor nurtured 16 innate golden immortals, all of exceptional caliber from various realms, 7 of whom were qualified to become Taoist emperors. Guan gazed at the Abyss Emperor City from afar, recalling Jinren and Ihai's memories of it. After watching for a while, he shifted his gaze in other directions. He could feel other powerful destinies. Abyss Emperor City was not the most powerful force in the Abyss Dao Sea. If he had been born in the Abyss Dao Sea, he wondered how many years he would have to struggle before he could break free. Guan had previously followed causality to the battle court and then used the Daoless Celestial Net Step to arrive at the battle court in a few steps. But the Abyss Dao Sea was different. The Dao rules here were stronger, and Guan could not use the Daoless Celestial Net Step to step out in one go. He could only come and go freely within the sea. Suddenly, Guan spotted a colossal creature amidst the boundless spirit mist. A tremendous Kuan surrounded by tens of thousands of worlds, continuously radiating spiritual energy into these worlds. Some of these worlds even contained the aura of the Taoist Zhangzizai Immortal. Because the distance was too far, Guan could not use lifespan detection but could sense it through his heart eye. This Kuan was at the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm perfection and cultivation level. And in those worlds, all beings were unaware of its existence. Even powerful beings like the Taoist Zhangzizai Immortal could not jump to outer heaven. Guan felt deeply moved. One is shackled from birth. No matter the realm one reaches, there are always worlds constraining a person. He sat down on the spot and opened his attribute panel, directly investing 10 billion years of lifespan into the 2 characters for cultivation level. A prompt immediately popped up. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 500 million years. You use the Taoist dominator skill with great achievement to forcefully challenge the Daoyuo Dao fruit, beginning the crossing the tribulation, but you did not survive the Luo immortal tribulation where all laws exist, resulting in a failed crossing the tribulation. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 1 billion years. You use the Taoist dominator skill with great achievement to forcefully challenge the Daoyuo Dao fruit, beginning the crossing the tribulation, but you did not survive the Luo immortal tribulation where all laws exist, resulting in a failed crossing the tribulation, Daoyuo Dao fruit. Luo immortal tribulation where all laws exist. Crossing the tribulation every 500 million years. Guan's spirits surged. Could the mythological Daoyuo immortal really exist? Soon all the prompts settled down, ending in failure. Guan was not discouraged. He continued to invest lifespan. Another 10 billion followed after the first 100 billion. Seconds later, Guan still met with failure after having consumed 1 trillion years of lifespan. Since he was only breaking through in cultivation level this time, he just needed to leave 200 billion years of lifespan for the lifespan barrier. Keep going, keep going. Today he must achieve the Daoyuo Dao fruit. Guan was filled with fighting spirit, ceaselessly investing lifespan failure. 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 Up until the 48th billion year mark, a change finally occurred. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 7 billion years. With the great achievement of the Taoist dominator skill, you forcibly assailed the Daoyuo Dao fruit and began crossing the tribulation. You have weathered the all laws are contained in the Luo immortal tribulation. Crossing the tribulation was successful. Your golden immortal Dao fruit transformed into the Daoyuo Dao fruit, and your cultivation level has broken through to the early stage of the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 8 billion years. Your cultivation level has enhanced. Guan showed a smile, genuinely worried that his breakthrough might fail. Although he did not utilize his lifespan for evolution and improvement prior to this breakthrough, the endless marvels of the immortal emperors I might have played no small part during the tribulation. He continued to invest lifespan, hoping to bring his cultivation level to the perfection of the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. However, when he had advanced to the late stage of the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm, his lifespan had plummeted to 200 billion years, scaring him from going further. He feared being drained dry by the lifespan barrier. The Dao spiritual Qi had already started pouring into his body, his physical being instantly engulfed in the radiance of the Dao light. Outside the lifespan barrier, the Dao spiritual mist began to surge dramatically, creating ripples in the sea of boundless spiritual energy mist from a macro perspective. Upon closer inspection, these ripples were tumultuous and majestic. Phenomena emerged unpredictably. Soon various places within the Abyss Dao Sea burst with the upheaval of spiritual energy and the manifestations of Dao rules. Before Guan could accept the inheritance memories of a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, he already sensed numerous powerful divine senses sweeping across. Heaven-balancing golden immortal, Taiqing golden immortal, Taiqing golden immortal, heaven-balancing golden immortal. Quietly, Guan gauged the cultivation levels of these divine senses. The Abyss Dao Sea was indeed terrifying, far beyond what the battle court could match. Yet the battle court was already an enormous power that the celestial spirit great world could not contend with. It wasn't long before a continuous stream of inheritance memories emerged in Guan's mind, and before he could sink into them, he had only one thought. Do not provoke the Abyss Dao Sea lightly. When Guan closed his eyes, the Dao light around him dimmed suddenly, and looking up, a mysterious and colossal black bird flew over. Its body was immensely huge, each feather as gargantuan as mountains. It took a good while for the darkness to leave Guan inside the lifespan barrier. Guan was unaware of this. He had fully immersed himself in the inheritance memories. Only after about half an hour did he finally open his eyes. He had become a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal. Having attained this status, Guan looked at the Abyss Dao Sea and suddenly felt as if it wasn't entirely unapproachable. His cultivation level continued to grow. He looked at the lifespan figures the barrier was consuming. The numbers were jumping alarmingly, yet they posed no threat to his life and death. The Daoyuo Dao fruit was far more complex than the golden immortal Dao fruit, covered in ancient paths of Dao patterns, with the Taiqing Cyan heaven above it beginning to truly evolve into a celestial body. The heavens possessed a power to regulate the 3,000 rules of heaven and earth, reminiscent of destiny, of cause and effect. But if he had to give it a name, Guan felt it was akin to the heavenly Dao. Guan noticed countless figures flying overhead, swaying and endless, even more exaggerated and majestic than the previous battle court's armies. He continuously employed lifespan detection, sensing the aura of those passing by. Hardly any creatures from the Zizai immortal realm. The Abyss Dao Si also had mortal spirits, but they were either trapped within the little worlds or hidden inside dojos, not daring to emerge and observe the phenomenon sweeping across the entire Abyss Dao Si. A Daoyuo approaches, why not show yourself? A hoary voice suddenly echoed through the void. Guan could tell the other was also a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal. The foundation of the Abyss Dao Si was profoundly deep. He made no sound, continuing to enjoy the pleasure of his rapidly increasing cultivation level. The voice did not sound again, but judging by the increasingly robust figures flying by, the other party was growing angry. Time continued to elapse. The middle stage of the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. The late stage of the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. Although many figures passed by, no creature breached his lifespan barrier. After all, his lifespan barrier was as insignificant as dust to this void. Guan noted he had only 300 billion years of lifespan remaining and felt somewhat helpless. Lifespan was still insufficient. Nonetheless, he had become a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, at least making a gigantic leap in Great Realm. He could find another chance to break through to Perfection Realm later. This breakthrough had taken nearly 800 billion years in total. Guan slowly stood up. He looked again at the Abyss Dao Si, now able to perceive more. Indeed, the Abyss Dao Si was limitless and full of natural wonders. But the once mighty Abyss Emperor City now seemed to have lost its powerful aura in his eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 582. An unprecedented golden age. Guan hadn't immediately left after his breakthrough. Instead, he stood within the lifespan barrier and began to observe the Abyss Dao Si. After reaching the level of a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, the Abyss Dao Si appeared much clearer in Guan's eyes. The number of worlds and beings within the Abyss Dao Si far exceeded those in the universe where the celestial spirit Great World was located, and by more than tenfold. CTH novel_fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Stronger Dao rules, more opportunities for creation. This was enough to nurture even more terrifying entities. As a mere heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, Guan had already located 3 others, one residing in the Abyss Emperor City, and the others hidden in the shadows. In places with independent consciousness, conflicts easily arose, and these 3 heaven-opening Daoyuo immortals were clearly not united. Their destinies hindered each other, dividing the central region of the Abyss Dao Si into 3 parts. Besides observing the forces within the Abyss Dao Si, Guan was also curious about the creations in this place. There were many peculiar races living there, some invisible to the naked eye, existing within the Dao itself, and others were beings formed by thousands of meteors converging together, constantly changing shapes. Bizarre and marvelous, a plethora of new and strange phenomena assaulted Guan's heart-eye. Seeing new things also allowed Guan to deepen his understanding of the Dao. As a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, the essence of his mana was completely different from that of a golden immortal, contrasted as starkly as cloud and mud. Although there was more creation and profound mystery from being a Taiching golden immortal to a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, what Guan felt most was sheer power. Pure power. Physical body, soul, senses, mana, etc., no aspect was lacking, powerful in every way. A Taiching golden immortal couldn't possibly annihilate a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal. Yes, it was simply impossible, the disparity in life essence was too enormous. After this breakthrough, Guan felt he could relax for a while, and enjoy the power of being a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal. Of course, this so-called relaxation was still predicated on having finished gathering medicinal herbs. Even having reached the state of a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal, Guan did not want to stop his path to becoming stronger. Heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal was still not enough. Guan stood within the lifespan barrier, gazing for a long time before finally choosing to teleport back. Above, many powerful figures flashed by, none noticing Guan's departure. Upon returning to the Taoist field of the beginningless, it was still before dawn, and Guan roamed within the forest, using his heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal senses to feel the universe. After the breakthrough, he had only 200 billion years left on his lifespan, which might seem almost eternal to mortals, but it felt perilous to him. He would need at least 2 trillion years of lifespan before he dared to challenge a higher realm. He even felt that 2 trillion years might not be enough. As long as the Abyss Dao Sea and the Celestial Court did not come seeking him, Guan had plenty of time to endure, and he hoped not to encounter any situation that required his intervention over the next 10 million years. When the sun rose, Guan began to inspect his various medicine gardens. His disciples all felt he had changed somehow, though they couldn't pinpoint exactly what was different. In the end, the disciples could only assume that after Guan had helped his descendants break free of fate, he had shed some pressures, hence the perceived changes. It wasn't until midday that Guan left the dojo. He stepped in front of Jiang Qiong, giving her a fright. After a mild complaint, Jiang Qiong joyfully hosted Guan, pulling him into her own medicine garden. This garden was planted with spirit trees similar to peach trees, filled with pink blossoms and exceptionally beautiful. After they sat down, Jiang Qiong poured wine for Guan and asked, "Was that figure in the sky before you? Although the clothes were different, I recognized you immediately." Guan smiled and said, "It was me and it was not me. That was just my past life. The descendants of my past life gathered the bloodline dharma aspect and summoned my former self." Over the years, though Jiang Qiong hadn't cultivated in the Taoist field of the beginningless, she was always cared for by Guan. Sometimes she would inexplicably gain enlightenment. She wasn't foolish, she didn't think it was because her talent was outstanding, she knew it was Guan looking after her. Guan never said and she never asked. Compared to breakthroughs in cultivation level, what made her happiest was that Guan still thought of her. Past life? With such high cultivation, how far back does your past life date? Jiang Qiong asked curiously. Guan answered ambiguously, trying his best to satisfy all her curiosity. Looking upon Jiang Qiong, who was clad in white and resembled a celestial maiden, Guan could not help but think back to their first encounter more than 20,000 years ago, where Jiang Qiong had been in such a sorry state, almost like a zombie. Over the years, her demeanor had become increasingly remarkable, save for one flaw. She still disliked wearing shoes, going barefoot instead. Seemingly noticing Guan's gaze, Jiang Qiong didn't blush but huffed. "I only dress so casually within my own dojo. Outside, I am the founding elder of the Gathering Flower sect, and I must maintain a certain demeanor." Guan smiled and asked, "How has the Gathering Flower sect been developing recently?" He was well aware of the situation, but he still asked Jiang Qiong. Compared to Jiang Qiong, he practically knew everything, yet when interacting with people, conversation was essential. Jiang Qiong also cherished the opportunity to interact with Guan and began speaking about the development of the Gathering Flower sect. As the Supreme Sect grew stronger, the sects on the continent either submitted or relocated. The Gathering Flower sect chose the latter, and the Supreme Sect didn't make things difficult for them, even providing some resources. The Gathering Flower sect was now situated on an archipelago and had developed trade islands similar to a mortal-seeking island. There were no powerful sects nearby, the only threats being the occasional appearance of great demons in the sea, causing losses to the sect. Jiang Qiong had become a laid-back shopkeeper, frequently in seclusion and seldom bothered by issues. "The development is stable, but it's just too stable, which seems to lack prospects," Jiang Qiong remarked. Her unwillingness to leave the Gathering Flower sect stemmed from the fact that it was a creation of her own, having built too many connections here, making it difficult for her to leave. Guan reassured her with a smile, "Don't worry, numerous great opportunities will soon emerge in the world, and the Gathering Flower sect will encounter them too. The key is to seize these opportunities." The opportunities he referred to were legacies from the battle court, half of which Guan had dispersed across the soil and seabeds of the human world. Though it was only half, it was enough to turn the entire celestial spirit great world upside down and push it to unprecedented heights. Some of the battle court treasures, including magic artifacts, cultivation techniques, and rich heavenly materials and earthly treasures, were nearby in the ocean. Guan had a preference for these, believing if the Gathering Flower sect managed them well, they could become a top-tier major sect of the world in the future. "Really?" Jiang Qiong asked with surprise. Guan smiled and replied, "Why would I deceive you? In a few thousand years, I will gift you a treasure that will grant you enough power to protect your own sect." The higher his realm, the more nonchalantly Guan behaved. He no longer pondered consequences too much and did whatever he wished, especially when it came to taking care of those close to him. Hearing this, Jiang Qiong became even happier. She stood up, moved closer to Guan, and reached for his chest with a giggle. "What day is today that you're treating me so kindly, or could it be that you've finally been moved by mortal feelings and missed me?" Guan pushed her away and huffed, "Nonsense, I'm a reader of the classics." "What are the classics? Are they something low-class like the Supreme Secret Transmission?" Hearing Jiang Qiong mention the Supreme Secret Transmission made Guan somewhat tense. What Supreme Secret Transmission? I don't know about it. I've heard its author, Shinjin, has a great relationship with you. What exactly do you do when you are alone and what do you talk about? Can you share it with me? Jiang Qiong said coldly, her eyes full of mischief. She wasn't upset about Guan's quirks. Instead, she felt that such quirks made Guan seem more real. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable was too strong and too high a level for her to comprehend. Compared to the powerful Guan, she preferred the careful and calculating Guan of the past. The two began to bicker, with Guan continuously making excuses, which only spurred Jiang Qiong on. Until night fell, Guan chose to stay in Jiang Qiong's dojo and preach to her. Deep in the cosmos among the stars, where stars dazzled and clouds of light surged in breathtaking beauty, palaces floated upon a massive cloud of light that resembled a spiral stairway, with countless buildings on its surface. These palaces appeared like specks of sand, yet each structure was incredibly vast. On a cliff, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in white clothes and a black robe. She wore a silver-beaded phoenix crown on her head, and a red Dao pattern on her forehead made her appear even more mystical. Suddenly, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor appeared behind her, bowing respectfully with excitement. Emperor Qin has foreseen that the celestial spirit Great World is about to encounter an unprecedented fortune. He hopes to move the yin-yang immortal domain within the celestial spirit Great World, and the other two emperors have already agreed. Your Highness, it's time for us to return. Hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu slowly opened her eyes, a flash of brilliance in her gaze. The Dao spiritual qi and light clouds where she looked paused as if time and space had frozen. Her pupils reflected the majestic scenery of the celestial spirit Great World, her look carrying an indescribable meaning. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 583. A new reincarnation. Seeing Ji Xiaoyu not answering, simply gazing ahead lost in thought, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor could roughly guess what she was thinking. He said softly, the one who previously eradicated the external forces should be him. Since he is still around, perhaps we can better integrate into the celestial spirit Great World. Why be so stubborn? He knew about the pride inherent in the reincarnation Dao Emperor. He used to support her. But now, Guan was simply too strong. So strong that the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor felt it was a pity not to cling to his coattails. No matter how one looked at it, encountering Guan was the greatest opportunity for both the reincarnation Dao Emperor and the entire yin-yang immortal domain. See Chavel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ji Xiaoyu still did not respond, and seeing this, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor could only sigh and turn to leave. He had just turned around when Ji Xiaoyu's voice drifted over, "Tell them I agree too." Hearing this, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor turned his head back in surprise, bowed to Ji Xiaoyu once more, and then immediately vanished on the spot. Ji Xiaoyu looked into the distance, murmuring softly to herself, "When will I ever catch up to you?" No one answered her, but she didn't need an answer. Her thoughts scattered, drifting back many years. Back then, Guan was still young, but his eyes were different from those of the other children in the residence. Time flowed gently. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Battle Court treasures officially began a golden era in the human world, with the first Battle Court Supreme Treasure unearthed, sparking a struggle among many powerful beings. Fortunately, more treasures appeared soon after, making the contention less brutal. Every sect in the human world started pursuing these treasures. The number of Battle Court relics exceeded the number of human world cultivators. After all, the Great Thousand World had just been reshaped, and the human race was not yet widespread across the entire world. The Qingkuan sect too joined in this trend, with an Xan often bringing news back to the dojo, stirring up excitement amongst the others. Unfortunately, Guan did not allow them to go out. Guan's attitude serened them down, indicating that the treasures outside did not catch his eye. After reaching the heaven-opening Daoyuo Immortal, Guan's Dao intent strengthened, allowing the dojo's disciples to perceive even more. The Blood Prison Great Saint had already broken through to the wandering immortal realm first. His talent was not lacking. Before Nirvana, he was also at the limit of 9,999 years of lifespan. In the dojo, only the celestial demon child could match him in talent. In this millennium, the yin-yang immortal domain descended upon the celestial spirit Great World. Guan saw the Dao court negotiate with it, eventually coming to some agreement, and allocated a portion of the edge of the Great World for the yin-yang immortal domain to settle. After returning to the celestial spirit great world, Ji Xiaoyu didn't visit the supreme sect, nor did she establish any relationship with the Ji family. Guan could hear Ji Xiaoyu's heart. She often thought of him, but she had a strong competitive spirit in her bones. She wanted to stand on equal footing with Guan. To this end, Guan could only respect her. He couldn't have everything in the world develop according to his wishes, and Ji Xiaoyu's way of thinking made him look forward to it. He had protected many people. It was rare for someone not to rely on him, and it made him curious. Miss Third, keep it up. No matter how hard you try, you will never catch up to me. Guan thought proudly, his gaze drifting to the distant sky, where there was a barrier. Inside the barrier, LV Xian and Qin Chuan were sparring again. Though there were millennium-long combat rituals, these two always sparred privately. Their relationship was excellent. Guan did not interfere. In a previous life, Xiao Chuan was just a low-level member of the Supreme Sect. LV Xian was the first genius of the sect he had looked up to and envied. Now they had become the best of brothers. Truly, fate made fools of people. No, it should be said that destiny is wonderfully inexplicable. Guan watched for a while, then turned his gaze in another direction. Xiao Chuan and Lu Jiujia had already reincarnated into the celestial spirit great world, and Yi Lan was soon to follow. Yi Lan bore the Tao Destruction Destiny seal, and Guan could feel her progressing along the path of reincarnation, drawing closer and closer to the celestial spirit great world. Reincarnation is complex, and being reborn could lead one to any other great world, but the world of one's birth had a certain pull on the being, ensuring that they would always return to their own great thousand world. From afar, Guan saw Yi Lan's soul and the 17 lifetimes before her. Due to practicing the innate reincarnation skill, Yi Lan would awaken memories of her past lives each time. She would continue to practice the innate reincarnation skill, accumulating cultivation level, which made her talent higher in every life. Perhaps it was because of the memories of past lives, but she always died alone, never married. Yet, every time she was on her deathbed she was happy, thinking that in the next life she would meet Guan dying with longing, reborn with confusion. That was her reincarnation. Watching Yi Lan's past life experiences moved Guan. This silly girl. Regardless, Yi Lan had finally come back. Guan had already deduced where she would be reincarnated. He stood up, gave a few instructions to an ex-in, and then disappeared from the spot. He arrived at a vast continent, a land even larger than the Tai Tsang continent, with imperial dynasties and innumerable sects established. It is worth mentioning that this place fell under the jurisdiction of the Tao court. Guan appeared in a mountainous forest and started walking in a certain direction. Along the way he had already calculated the destiny of Yi Lan in this life. After 17 lifetimes of accumulation, the innate reincarnation skill would grant Yi Lan an exceptional talent, which destined her life to be extraordinary and would also bring her into cause and effect with the Tao court. Guan was not afraid of trouble. He decided Yi Lan should have a smooth and comfortable life this time, without undergoing any hardships. Thinking of the Tao court, Guan also remembered Lu Han, a former reincarnation body, who also had grievances with the Tao court in his lifetime. Of course, these two Tao courts were not the same entity. In the vast multitude of the great thousand worlds, there were many forces bearing the name of Tao court. No matter which branch of the Tao court it was, the fact that they bore the Tao in their name was enough to prove their ambition. After walking some distance, Guan saw a mountain villa. The cultivators in this villa were only at the foundation establishment realm. Since they had no hope of advancing in immortal cultivation, they retreated from the secular world to live an ordinary life. Guan's demeanor suddenly became subdued. His magical treasures vanished, and he changed into simple black clothing, with a Cyan Hong sword and white spirit sword hanging at his waist. Although his appearance did not change, he instantly transformed from immortal to mortal, like a martial hero from the martial world. He approached the gate of the mountain villa and knocked on the door. It took a dozen or so breaths before someone came to open it. The door was opened by a young servant, who cautiously assessed Guan and asked, "Can I help you?" Guan smiled and said, "My name is Guan, a wanderer of the world, and I would like to request lodging for a few days. Can you pass the message along? I want stay for free." The young servant wanted to refuse, but after hearing Guan's offer, he hesitated for a moment and said, "Wait here." Clang. The door was closed again. The mighty heaven-opening Daluo immortal stood closed out by mortals. Guan found it amusing. He didn't feel insulted at all. After all, this villa would be Yi Lan's home in the future. After a while the door opened again and Guan was welcomed in. Sunlight poured down, shining on the courtyard wall beside it. In the cracks of the wall, green sprouts began to emerge, growing faster and faster. By the time the entire courtyard wall was covered with weeds and vines, 18 years had passed. The door opened and a girl in yellow clothes stepped out quickly, followed by Guan. The girl in yellow looked 16 or 17, with delicate features and a lively figure. Her long hair was tied into 2 braids draped over her shoulders. After stepping down from the steps, she turned around to look at Guan. "Brother Gu, where shall we go play today? I heard there's a demon haunting nearby, let's go catch it," the girl in yellow asked expectantly, her face brimming with the radiant smile of youth, like the bright morning sun. Guan looked at her and cast lifespan detection. Shaolan, Qi Cultivation Realm 3rd Layer 17/160/9999. Her maximum lifespan had finally risen to 9,999 years. Shaolan was born with a lifespan limit of 7,000 years. Over the years, Guan used his own Tao intent to aid her enlightenment in her dreams, up until this day. Everything was so coincidental. Today Shaolan was to encounter a turning point in her life. Guan wore a smile which made Shaolan blush. She glared at Guan and asked, "Brother Gu, why aren't you speaking? Are you thinking?" She hadn't finished her words when she suddenly sensed something and turned around sharply. Looking down the mountain path, she saw a woman in white clothes coming from the forest. Her cold and beautiful face, along with the long zither on her back, made her seem like a fairy walking through the woods, stunning Shaolan, who had always stayed within 100 miles of the area. The woman in white's gaze fell on Shaolan. Her eyes were calm, but such calm only lasted for 2 breaths. Then, her pupils dilated suddenly, and in almost an instantaneous movement, she appeared in front of Shaolan and grabbed her right wrist. "What are you doing?" Shaolan cried out in shock, trying to shake off the woman's hand, but it was futile. The woman in white stared at her intently, muttering to herself, "Such a constitution is rare in the world." Guan did not intervene, amused by the scene. This woman possessed the cultivation level of a wandering immortal realm. She would be Shaolan's first teacher, leading her onto the path of immortal cultivation. Guan suddenly felt very gratified. Vast seas had turned into mulberry fields, the world had changed and the human world was indeed a different scenery. Fortunately, the sun, moon and stars still existed and she was also right in front of his eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 584. Obsession. Shaolan felt like she was dreaming today, as if she had encountered an immortal who praised her exceptional talent and wanted to take her as a disciple. After witnessing the immortal's display of techniques, her father, whom she considered the mightiest, actually knelt down and kowtowed. Everything was so dreamlike. Even until dusk, Shaolan still hadn't recovered from the shock. "What's the matter? Don't want to pursue immortal cultivation?" A familiar voice came, interrupting Shaolan's trance. She turned her head and saw Guan walking into the garden. Seeing Guan, Shaolan's anxiety dissipated somewhat and she answered, "It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I'm a little scared. After all, I have never been outside before and my master says she wants to take me to Dao Court, which seems to be very powerful." She began to share her true inner feelings and Guan came over to listen to her talk earnestly. In the end, Shaolan said helplessly, "If only someone could go with me, that would be great. Unfortunately, my brothers and sisters are not recognized by the master." Guan blinked and said, "I can accompany you. Your master has already taken me as a named disciple. Although there's still a difference in status compared to you, it won't be difficult to accompany you in the future." At that, Shaolan's eyes widened in excitement, and she grabbed Guan's arms asking, "Really? Have I ever lied to you?" "Manor Master Gu has already entrusted me to take good care of you," Guan said with a smile, and as he spoke, he raised his hand to ruffle Shaolan's hair. Having spent 18 years at Shao Manor, Guan had long been integrated into life there, and everyone held him in high regard. With his insight, Guan had also established a deep friendship with Manor Master Shao, and since he had watched Shaolan grow up, the Manor Master was very comfortable trusting him. It is worth mentioning that Shaolan's name Lan was chosen by Guan himself, which attested to the great trust he had earned in Shao Manor. "That's wonderful. Well, explore the realm of immortal cultivation together." Shaolan was ecstatic, swinging Guan's arm excitedly. Ever since childhood, she had loved playing with Guan, because he would fulfill her every wish. She shook off the earlier trepidation and confusion, becoming extremely excited about what lay ahead in her life. 2 days later, the white-robed woman known as Sage Su took Guan and Shaolan and left. Everyone in Shao Manor stood at the gates to see them off. Shao Lan's mother cried uncontrollably, while Manor Master Shao's eyes were filled with hope. His spiritual root qualification was limited, but Shao Lan's encounter gave him hope that perhaps he could gain the chance for longevity through his daughter. Partings are always sorrowful, but fortunately Shao Lan had Guan's company. Over 100 miles away from Shao Manor, she became lively again. Without concern for Sage Su's immortal status, she chased after her and incessantly asked about Dao Court, chattering the whole way. Guan followed behind the two, enjoying the scenery along the way. He replaced himself with a clone, while his true self went to gather medicinal herbs. Sage Su was very gentle and indulgent towards Shao Lan. As for Guan, though she was not as enthusiastic, she gave him no cold shoulder, and the atmosphere during the journey was rather pleasant. Night fell. The three stopped in a forest to rest. Sage Su had no plans to return to Dao Court straight away. She was traveling the human world, experiencing life, with plans to return to Dao Court after the journey's end. During this period she would teach Shao Lan the techniques for cultivation. Shao Lan was very excited and couldn't settle down, even after half a day had passed. Master, tell us about Dao Court and also the realm of immortal cultivation. I've heard from Father that cultivators have their own hierarchies. While mortals may not see them, the realm of immortal cultivation is vast and magnificent, with waves of grandeur and heroes emerging one after another. Shao Lan asked Sage Su, leaning on Guan. Sage Su was somewhat displeased with their close interaction, but she did not let it show and instead started to introduce Dao Court. In Sage Su's description, Dao Court was the most powerful sect under the heavens with countless branches. She mentioned one famed name after another, all prominent figures within Dao Court. My disciple, your talent is no less than theirs. As long as you are willing to work hard, your teacher will help you surpass them and become the top prodigy of Dao Court, Sage Su declared to Shao Lan with a burning gaze. Shao Lan became even more elated. She sat up, tapping Guan on the shoulder with a triumphant smile. Brother Gu, I will be the top prodigy in the world someday, and you just wait for me to protect you. Guan laughed and said, Good, I'm already looking forward to it. Sage Su slightly furrowed her brow. In her eyes, Guan was not worthy of Shao Lan, and moreover the path that Shao Lan must walk did not require romantic entanglements. To become a top prodigy in Dao Court, one must devote all their energy to cultivation. She didn't stop her though, knowing that once Shao Lan experienced the power and splendor of Dao Court, she would eventually lose interest in Guan. Her gaze toward Guan became one of pity. To be abandoned was not a good feeling, and after all, this child was still her disciple. She would ensure he had a good end in the future. Listening to Sage Su's inner thoughts, Guan almost laughed out loud, but he was an excellent actor and restrained himself. Shao Lan, unaware of their thoughts, was still indulging in her dreams of a cultivator's life. That year Shao Lan began her qi refinement. Sage Su not only taught her cultivation techniques but also provided her with elixirs, which greatly accelerated her cultivation speed. The following year, Guan gifted Shao Lan the white spirit sword, which delighted her immensely. She had grown up and had a budding understanding of affection. She realized her feelings for Guan resembled that of a married couple in the human world. Whenever this thought crossed her mind, her cheeks reddened, and she couldn't help stealing glances at Guan. Neither of them pointed out this unspoken understanding, savoring the hazy romantic feelings. Although Sage Su did not expressly prevent it, she often took Guan and Shao Lan to observe mortals suffering for love, hoping to make Shao Lan realize that love was not reliable. However, Shao Lan remained unaffected and felt even more fortunate that her brother Gu was not like those men. In the blink of an eye, 50 years went by swiftly. Shao Lan had reached the cultivation level of the divinity transformation realm, and her talent symbolized by the lifespan limit of 9,999 years was fully evident. According to Sage Su, if Shao Lan had cultivated within Dao Court, her progress would have been faster. Guan's apparent cultivation level had reached the core formation realm, which was extraordinary in the Taitsong continent but barely noteworthy in Sage Su's eyes. Over those 50 years they visited 12 dynasties, experienced the customs of various places, and encountered other cultivators, demons and ghosts. Shao Lan had matured, letting go of the ties in her braids, and gradually developed the demeanor of a daughter of heaven. No matter how much higher her realm was than Guan's, her feelings for him had not faded but rather deepened. It used to be Guan taking care of her, but now the roles had reversed. Whenever Guan remained silent, she would ask him what was wrong, fearing he was under mental stress. This bemused and sometimes frustrated Guan, while also increasing Sage Su's dissatisfaction. She couldn't fathom why Xiaolan was so fond of Guan. Before, Xiaolan had never left the manor and had not met men more outstanding than Guan, so Sage Su could understand her feelings. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But now, having seen more of the world and yet being even more fond of Guan, Sage Su found it utterly baffling. The worst part was, Sage Su realized it was becoming increasingly difficult for her to intervene. Her intuition told her that if she tried to force them apart, Xiaolan would turn against her. On a sweltering summer day, the three walked along a large river, where waves slapped the banks and white gulls soared, creating a majestic and melancholic atmosphere. Brother Gu, are you hot? Do you need me to cast a spell for you? Brother Gu, are you tired? Do you need to rest? Brother Gu, look over there. Isn't that demon bird cute? Do you like it? Do you want me to catch it for you? Listening to these incessant questions, not only Sage Su grew weary, but even Guan felt it was a bit much. I'm at least at the core formation realm level, why are you treating me like some delicate scholar? Guan said rather helplessly. Clad in white, with makeup enhancing her fairy-like appearance, Xiaolan stood beside him prettily. Hearing his words, she blinked and said softly with a giggle, well, I just can't help it. For some reason she was always thinking about Guan, sometimes to the extent that she wouldn't even listen to her master's words. As long as she looked at Guan, she felt elated and considered herself the luckiest person in the world. While they spoke, she couldn't resist hugging Guan's arm, as though afraid he might leave. Guan was torn between helplessness and being touched by her actions. He hadn't cast any spell on Xiaolan. This was an emotion that transcended reincarnation. Yilan's love for him had become an obsession through the cycles of reincarnation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 585. The world's #1 Sage Su really didn't want to look at the young lady Xiaolan's posture, her eyes fixed on the great river ahead, her brows slightly furrowed. She sensed a faint trace of demon qi, enigmatic even to her realm of existence. The opponent's cultivation level was likely higher than hers. Xiaolan had clung to Guan for quite some time before she finally, reluctantly, came to Sage Su's side, asking with curiosity, Master, since just now, you have been furrowing your brows. What are you looking at? Sage Su turned her head to look at her, thinking, have you finally remembered your teacher? There seems to be a great demon hidden in the river ahead, and am hesitating whether to change our course, Sage Su replied softly. Xiaolan's eyes immediately lit up and she said, what kind of great demon? Compared to the endless flood dragon we encountered before, which one is stronger? This demon is probably stronger than your teacher. Sage Su shook her head, unafraid to show weakness in front of her disciple. Hearing this, Xiaolan subconsciously looked at Guan, then turned back to Sage Su and frowned, then we should change routes. Sage Su felt both relieved and helpless. Relieved because Xiaolan wasn't so reckless, but helpless because the girl considered everything with Guan as the primary factor. Guan's gaze drifted to the distant great demon. Downstream in the great river was a vast lake that resembled a boundless ocean, where a demon and a great cultivator were engaged in combat, vying for the battle court's legacy treasures. That great cultivator was adept in the chi concealment technique, not revealing the slightest trace of his aura, making the battle not earth-shatteringly noticeable. The great demon was likewise afraid of the treasure's chi leaking out, endeavoring to contain its demon chi but still leaking quite a bit. Watching their combat, Guan also got some ideas. CTH Novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. What kind of Dao treasure should he refine for Xiaolan? When autumn came, the third Medicine Valley gradually took on a withered yellow hue. Under an ancient tree, Long Ting sat in meditation. His robe fluttered slightly, with Jin Qi swirling around him like various strands of dragon qi. Long Qing approached him with someone in tow, none other than the emperor of the Tai Tsang dynasty, Li Xiandao. Dressed in a golden robe and topped with a dragon crown, Li Zuando's imperial presence was unmistakable, drawing frequent glances from Medicine Valley disciples along the way. Ever since his nirvana, Li Xiandao had truly displayed his dominance. Reigning for 20,000 years, he had become the god in the hearts of Tai Tsang imperial dynasty's people. He and Long Qing were the two most powerful individuals in the Tai Tsang continent. Many feared that a rift between them would lead to chaos, yet their relationship had always been amiable. This cordiality allowed the supreme sect and Tai Tsang imperial dynasty to interact harmoniously, resolving any conflicts by discussion. Li Zuando's eyes shone the moment he saw Long Teng. He had always harbored a bold hunch. The enigmatic outer heaven power had previously sought Long Qing, and the emergence of the dragon battle Dharma aspect had strengthened his conviction. He thought Long Ting bore a resemblance to Guan the first time he saw him. His features had a sharper edge than Guan's, but their facial structures were highly similar. Upon reaching Long Ting, Long Qing spoke, "Tengayer, this is His Majesty of the Taizong Imperial Dynasty, an old friend of my master. Pay your respects quickly." Hearing this, Long Ting immediately stood up to salute Li Xiandao. Li Xiandao smiled, saying, "Seeing you reminds me of the first time I met Yang Jian." Yang Jian. Long Ting had of course heard the name. He was a legend of the Supreme Sect, a senior brother to his father, who had made great contributions to the Taizong Imperial Dynasty. He was currently the strongest in the dynasty. Before the ancestor made his presence known, he had admired Yang Jian the most. In the Taizong continent, anyone over the age of 6 knew Yang Jian's tales, which had spread journey to the west far and wide, turning it into an enduring classic. It had been canonized by the dynasty, despite some content being subversive. "Follow me from now on. I will not treat you poorly. I'll enable you to become another Yang Jian or even surpass him," said Li Xiandao, filled with boundless aspiration. After hearing this, Long Ting did not respond right away but looked towards Long Qing. Long Qing nodded, saying, "I do not wish the Long family to be too closely tied to the Supreme Sect. Following His Majesty to establish some achievements is quite good. Once you get established, the Long family will move out." Long Ting had long been aware of the Long clan's destiny, so he had no doubts. He gave Li Xiandao a fistful salute in acceptance, which pleased Li Xiandao even more. Pulling him to sit down, they reminisced about the old times. Upon hearing Li Xiandao mention his ancestor Guan, Long Ting became interested. Now, what he was most curious about and aspired to know was what kind of person ancestor Guan really was. Li Xiandao started from his first encounter with Guan, and learning that the ancestor had once posed as a menial disciple made Long Ting even more intrigued. When Long Ting found out that historical texts like The Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West, and writings by the Supreme Immortal Venerable were all authored by his ancestor, his eyes widened. No wonder these texts were must-reads for disciples and even studied as history. Now he believed it. Perhaps it was truly trials his ancestor lived through. Long Qing watched Long Ting's expressions and smiled. Even though he planned to sever the Long clan's ties with the Supreme Sect, he didn't wish his descendants to drift apart from the primordial ancestor. Without the primordial ancestor, there would be no Long family. This was something that must not be forgotten. An hour swiftly passed. Li Xiandao props himself up on his knees, laughs and says, "I intend for you to train at the Dao court for some time. Upon your return, I will declare you great general. What follows will be an era unlike any before, as we intend to sweep across all imperial dynasties and establish a unified imperial dynasty, creating merits for the common people. I need you for this. It will be a long and arduous task. You will face countless battles." Hearing this, Long Ting's eyes immediately burn with passion. Even his breathing becomes rapid. "Is the Dao court really that impressive?" Long Ting asked curiously. "In today's world, it is considered a top-tier Dao court. Of course, if your ancestor were still with the Supreme Sect, the Dao court wouldn't even be worthy of carrying his shoes. I've arranged everything, and upon your arrival, you just need to cultivate. You'll have someone accompany you to handle everything." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Long Ting responds excitedly, his favor toward Li Xiandao growing significantly. For Long Qing, this is the first time he truly senses Li Zuando's charismatic personality. No wonder Brother Yang Jian has willingly served him for so many years. Serving the imperial power is well and good. It meant that, however strong the Long family became, there would always be someone above them. That's what Long Qing thought as he looked at Li Xiandao and Long Ting. He started to look forward to Long Ting's performance in the years to come. 80 years had passed since Xiaolan left Xiao Manor. Sage Su finally prepared to return to the Dao court, and before leaving, Xiaolan wanted to visit Xiao Manor one last time. Sage Su agreed. This time, Sage Su didn't travel on foot. She directly cast a spell, taking Xiaolan and Guan with her, and within half an hour they were back at Xiao Manor. The trio stayed for 2 days before departing. Before leaving, Xiaolan left behind plenty of cultivation resources for Xiao Manor to soar. Many of these resources came from Sage Su herself. Sage Su understood Xiaolan's intentions very well. It was normal for the entire household to ascend to heaven when one person achieved immortal cultivation. She also wanted Xiaolan to cultivate without any concerns. The three of them took to the clouds and headed for the Dao court. As they neared the Dao court, Sage Su turned to look at Xiaolan wanting to say something, but seeing Xiaolan holding tightly to Guan's arm, she swallowed her words. Never mind. It wasn't like the girl was neglecting her cultivation. Once her feelings for Guan faded, everything would return to normal. Guan was also full of interest in the Dao court as many old acquaintances had joined its ranks. In the previous crisis from outer heaven, the Dao court had demonstrated the responsibility and ambition befitting the world's #1 sect. Their reputation soared after that battle, and more sects believed the Dao court to be worthy of leading them, trustworthy to hold the position of alliance hierarch. The Dao court was not stingy either. They did not require other sects to submit but simply to form an alliance. For each ally, they provided opportunities to cultivate Taoist techniques. As disciples from other sects returned from training, the Dao court's reputation continued to grow. Xiaolan, too, eagerly anticipated the Dao court. She said she wanted Guan to stay in her cave mansion. According to Sage Su, with her talent, she was entitled to a high level of treatment, and her cave mansion was rich with spiritual energy. Facing her anticipation, Guan agreed, causing Sage Su to shake her head but say no more. Before long, the magnificent sight of the Dao court appeared before them. The Dao court occupied an entire continent, and above that continent, a layer of cloud seas had formed. On these cloud seas were built dojos and cities, with the higher the cultivation level, the higher the residence. Even before setting foot on the continent, one could feel its magnificent destiny, something neither the former immortal dynasty nor holy court could compare with. Guan detected the presence of the saint minister and other high-ranking officials of the holy court. The Dao court's swift growth had much to do with the contributions of former members of the holy court and immortal dynasty. Precisely speaking, the Dao court was an amalgamation of the former overlords of the Great Thousand World before its reconstruction, with a complex interweaving of factions. This was why the Dao court did not annex other sects but chose to form alliances. Their essence too was an alliance of sections. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 586. Variables. Under the guidance of Sage Su, Guan and Xiaolan were successfully initiated into the Dao court, becoming true disciples of the Dao court, while Xiaolan became Sage Su's direct disciple. With treatment and status far surpassing Guan, Xiaolan's first cave mansion featured an interior space so vast it resembled the Third Medicine Valley, which made Guan reflect upon the deep foundations of the Dao court. It should be known that although Xiaolan had extraordinary talent, her cultivation level wasn't high, yet the cave mansion she received was still better than those of over 1 million other disciples with superior cultivation. After moving into the cave mansion, Xiaolan could no longer hide her petty concerns, but Guan sternly criticized her, telling her to focus on cultivation as longevity was the true path. This made her feel ashamed and abandoned those trivial thoughts in favor of earnest cultivation. Guan didn't stay for nothing. He began helping Xiaolan plant medicinal herbs and manage the cave mansion, allowing her to concentrate on her cultivation. By the time he had filled the entire cave mansion with medicinal herbs and organized everything neatly, Sage Su was very pleased with his performance when she came to visit. Sage Su suddenly thought that there were still many redeeming qualities about Guan, and perhaps he was having a positive influence on Xiaolan, who was now able to dedicate herself entirely to cultivation. You're doing well. Keep helping her and she will be your greatest opportunity on the path of immortal cultivation, Sage Su said before she left, and Guan suddenly felt as if he were back in his old line of work. He shook his head and chuckled, not minding it, for helping Xiaolan was something he did willingly, and it also allowed him to conveniently snatch lifespan. Xiaolan, who practiced the innate reincarnation skill, could easily awaken memories of her previous life if subjected to a shock. And in this life, she had experienced smooth sailing without any signs of regaining those memories. Guan wasn't in a hurry for her to recover her memories because the longer she lived in this life, the deeper her understanding of the Great Tao would become. Of course, Guan wouldn't always stay in the cave mansion with her. Occasionally he would switch with his clone while his true self was busy with other matters. Cultivation was a lengthy affair. The higher the realm, the more time was needed for secluded meditation. In the blink of an eye, another millennium passed and Guan's yearly income of lifespan had increased to 40 million years within this year. Over 1,000 years, Xiaolan had reached the Nirvana realm and was making rapid strides toward the loose immortal realm. During this period she had returned to Xiao Manor twice, helping Xiao Manor transform into a cultivation family. Unfortunately, Manor Master Xiao's maximum lifespan was too short, and he had passed away some years ago. One day Sage Su sent a message to Xiaolan, which led her to find Guan and leave the cave mansion with him. There are over 10,000 branches within the Dao court, and the competition is fierce. It said that there will be an enlightenment conference soon, and disciples from other sects will also be attending. Master wants us to go to Dao City to broaden our horizons, Xiaolan said with a smile as she flew on a cloud beside Guan. Having attained the Nirvana realm, she still exuded a lively temperament. Although she was now 1,000 years old, she had spent most of that time in secluded cultivation, which made her feel as if she had only lived 1 year, with few memories retained. We should indeed take a good look, Guan smiled. His gaze had already reached Dao City. Coincidentally, his descendant Long Teng was also in that city, currently engaging in a combat practice with someone. Within his realm, Long Teng had won 97 consecutive battles against talents from various sects, making his name resonate throughout the city. Martial resolution was there too. Guan had always kept an eye on this brother who would understand the Dao whenever he felt disheartened. A long time ago, martial resolution had ventured out alone, enduring many hardships, which helped him achieve enlightenment time after time. For this very reason he had not returned to the Supreme Sect. Martial Resolution and Long Ting didn't know each other, and Long Ting never claimed to be from the Supreme Sect. At the moment, Martial Resolution was among the crowd watching the match, admiring Long Ting's talent. Dao City was vast, and Guan wasn't worried about bumping into Martial Resolution. Unless he wanted to see Martial Resolution, there was no chance they would meet. Right now, Guan only wanted to accompany Xiaolan and help her grow. Along the way, Xiaolan chatted non-stop, talking about Dao City before moving on to discuss her cultivation achievements. She even wanted to teach Guan her spells. Although they shared the same master, the inheritances they received were different. They chatted and laughed, flying for the duration of 1 stick of incense before finally arriving at Dao City. With that, Guan was ready to relax and enjoy a leisurely stroll with Xiaolan. Xiaolan also treasured these rare moments of leisure, clinging to Guan's arm the entire time and unwilling to let go, giving the impression that they were Dao companions. In the Taoist field of the beginningless within Guan's courtyard, Celestial Demon Child approached Shenzhen, who was watching her control the Taiching True Fire under the artifact refining cauldron. After observing for a while, she asked, "Miss Shen, do you feel like the master's heart is always elsewhere?" Shenzhen replied, "Definitely outside, probably caught by some woman's heart." When facing the disciples in the dojo, Guan didn't need to leave a clone to pretend, so everyone could feel his frequent outings. As soon as Celestial Demon Child heard this, she couldn't help but widen her eyes and asked, "If so, aren't you worried?" "What's there to worry about? We've followed him for an endless time. Be content. Besides, do we really want to restrain him? Even if we had the power, which we don't, why would we?" Shenzhen said nonchalantly, her gaze fixed on the Taiching True Fire. Celestial Demon Child pouted and said, "I naturally wouldn't dare control the master. I'm just curious." Shenzhen smiled and said, "It's probably some past acquaintance reincarnated. Otherwise he wouldn't spend so much time with them." "Past acquaintance?" Celestial Demon Child became interested and asked which past acquaintance it was. Shenzhen glanced at her and said teasingly, "There are probably only 2 people whose companionship he would cherish. One is the Ji family's 3rd young miss and the other is his junior sister. I bet it's his junior sister 9 out of 10. She began to recount the story of Guan and Yilan, while Celestial Demon Child listened attentively. The story of Guan and Yilan was simple, but Celestial Demon Child felt a sense of warmth listening to it. She had heard many heart-wrenchingly beautiful love stories, but after hearing this one, she suddenly thought that the person the master liked most in his heart might indeed be Miss Yi. The master was so formidable, invincible in the world, yet he chose to live hidden in the mountains. This was enough to prove his temperament. Suddenly, "Are you talking about me behind my back?" Guan's voice interrupted the conversation between the 2 women, startling them as they turned to see Guan standing right behind them. Celestial Demon Child's face flushed with embarrassment, while Shenzhen remained composed. Guan walked between them to the artifact refining cauldron and extended his divine sense into it. Inside was the Dao treasure he was refining for Xiaolan, almost complete. After reaching the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm, Guan's speed and strength in crafting Dao treasures had increased. He planned to give Xiaolan a great gift to make her path as a Heaven's Pride child even easier. Celestial Demon Child moved closer to Guan and curiously asked, "Master, has Miss Yi really reincarnated?" Shenzhen guessed correctly. Guan replied, then briefly recounted the reincarnations of Yilan over the years. Hearing that Yi Lan had endured more than a dozen reincarnations without forgetting Guan, even Xinzhen was touched. Celestial Demon Child's eyes reddened with emotion as she expressed a desire to meet Xiao Lan. Focus on your cultivation, don't let her surpass you, Guan teased without giving a direct answer. Celestial Demon Child boasted with a proud smile, I'm a wandering immortal, it won't be easy for her to catch up to me. Xinzhen, on the other hand, asked out of curiosity, is her talent in this life very high? Very high. Guan's answer instilled a sense of urgency in Celestial Demon Child. She did not linger any longer and quickly returned to her training. Xinzhen also did not disturb Guan's refining any further. Xiao Lan could not bring any pressure to her. She preferred seeking enlightenment rather than blindly pursuing cultivation levels. The true meaning of the great Tao brought her joy. Refining Tao treasures was simple for Guan now. He didn't need to concentrate intently. He was paying attention to someone else, someone far away in another great world. Zhang Buku. He had been sent by the Buddha Immortal to the Tai's great world to search for the divine exotic realm master. The two had already reunited but had encountered difficulties within the Tai's great world. This predicament would cause both to be severely injured, but they would eventually escape with their lives, so Guan decided not to intervene. Knowing the future, he still watched because a variable had appeared in the fight. Sarthan of Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This person was not in Zhang Buku's fate before, but now, this person would frequently appear in Zhang Buku's life and even build a very close relationship with him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 587. The illusory celestial court. The vast sea churned, and storm clouds obscured the heavens, as bolts of lightning continuously flashed across the sky, creating an overwhelmingly oppressive atmosphere between the heavens and the sea. Zhang Buku, dressed in a dark red battle armor, levitated mid-air, clutching a long spear. Behind him stood the divine exotic realm master back-to-back with him. They both stared into the distance where formidable figures blocked every direction, these powerhouses maintaining their distance while conjuring a formation. Beside Zhang Buku was another figure, positioned 5 zhang away. This individual's garments were tattered, his face smeared with grime, and his hair a complete mess, much like a beggar. His frame was frail, yet his face wore a mocking smile amid the encircling enemies, in stark contrast to the tense expressions of Zhang Buku and the divine exotic realm master. Hey Zhang Buku, see for yourself, wouldn't you rather give the treasure to me? At least you wouldn't have to die. Any regrets? The frail man teased as he looked at Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku didn't respond, but the divine exotic realm master coldly retorted, Suyu, don't you have to die as well? The thin man named Suyu spread his hands indifferently, my death doesn't matter. I'm merely experiencing the reincarnation tribulation. If I die, there's still the next life. You, however, are the real deal. If you die, you truly die. Hearing this, the eyes of the divine exotic realm master filled with frost. All 3 of you dared to harm my son, no one will escape today. A roar, akin to thunder, reverberated beneath the storm clouds, and the vast fury caused the distant clouds to disperse. A statue larger than mountains and possessing 8 arms closed in. Each arm wielded a divine weapon while a white-robed man with flowing silver hair, ferocious face, and eyes filled with killing intent stood atop the statue's head. Zhang Buku looked at the 8-armed statue and said, even as a reincarnation body, you probably don't want to die. Let's fight together, and once we break out, he'll give you a fair chance to compete for the divine treasure. Upon hearing this, Suyu grinned, revealing rows of blackened teeth, and chuckled, you sure understand the stakes. Let's break out together then, and don't fall behind, I won't look back. With that, he turned and walked in the opposite direction toward the 8-armed statue, flying off, and ahead of him were many cultivators blocking the horizon. This battle drew the attention of many great powers from afar, with Guan observing from the furthest distance within the celestial spirit great world. While crafting a Tao treasure, Guan watched the battle, focusing mainly on Suyu. So you didn't lie to Zhang Buku, he truly was a reincarnation body. His original self wasn't simple. Guan could sense that their cultivation levels were almost equal, and he possessed the celestial Tao destiny. This meant this person was likely a celestial god from the celestial court. Had Guan not broken through to become a heaven-opening Daluo immortal, he might not have been able to see through the cause and effect of Suyu's original self. The encounter between Suyu and Zhang Buku was no coincidence. since Zhang Buku was an inheritor of Buddha Immortal, who also had ties with the celestial court. Fortunately, judging from Zhang Buku's fate, Suyu had no intention of harming him, but rather to support him. Although curious, Guan had no intent to probe further. Suyu was unaware of his existence. Why should he provoke needless trouble? Even for the topmost great powers of the Great Thousand World, the celestial court remained an enigma, ethereal and elusive. Yet in the 3,000 great worlds, many celestial gods roamed. Some knew their identities but chose to feign ignorance. The karma of celestial gods was immense. Even with only the celestial spirit god guarding the celestial spirit great world, many forces dare not forcibly enter. It seemed there existed a certain place where, with the right authorities' permission, and Opharth guardians of the Great Thousand World. Guan watched for a while longer before turning his attention away. His present life was calm. He did not wish to entangle too soon with the celestial court. Unless absolutely necessary, Guan would not provoke the celestial court and aim to survive within the celestial spirit great world. Guan couldn't help but think of the celestial spirit god. In this life, Bai Sheng, with Su Jin's help, had already embarked on the path of immortal cultivation. Guan hoped he would possess a heart of compassion. That way the celestial spirit great world could have a celestial god. A celestial god not only shields the cosmos but also stabilizes the celestial court. Guan entertained the thought of persuading the celestial spirit god because, in pursuit of the immortal palace's treasures, the celestial spirit god had violated the principles of the celestial gods, indicating a lack of complete loyalty to the celestial court. Although the celestial spirit god had once aimed to destroy the celestial spirit great world, that had been a mission assigned by the celestial court, which he had delayed for many years. Across the ages, whenever a threat to the celestial spirit great world emerged, the celestial spirit god didn't wait for explanations. He just executed them. This approach at least spared many beings from numerous calamities. Celestial spirit god, I truly look forward to your future. I hope you won't disappoint me. If it doesn't work out, I might have to slay a god. Guan thought to himself, and a smile appeared on his face. Before that, he would continue to enjoy a peaceful life. When Xiaolan naturally awakened her past life memories, he would let her choose whether to stay in the Taoist field of the beginningless or continue to traverse the world. Nowadays, the celestial spirit great world seemed small in Guan's eyes, where he was omnipotent and could dominate everything. The Enlightenment Convention lasted a full 5 years. Each dojo had its own enlightenment platform, and those who excelled in enlightenment were announced throughout the cities, becoming renowned across the world. Xiaolan did not disappoint. Her comprehension of the great Tao touched the steel, marking her prominence, and Guan could see Sage Su and her fellow cultivators ecstatic at her side. Sarch * the Nefire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Sage Su was usually composed and even somewhat aloof, but faced with Xiaolan's remarkable achievements, she couldn't maintain her composure. Fortunately, Xiaolan did not witness that scene. The Tao court was vast, with tens of thousands of branches, and the Enlightenment Convention was similar to the imperial examination in the human world, an opportunity for disciples to change their fate. Even those disciples with mediocre spiritual root qualification harbored hope, as the Tao court valued comprehension of the great Tao more. Only after the end of the Enlightenment Convention did Xiaolan awaken. Guan accompanied her off the platform, and they were soon met by Sage Su and other mentors. Come, let me take you to meet the great powers of our sect. Your comprehension has been recognized by the higher-ups, my disciple. You are truly going to become a prodigy of the Tao court. Sage Su grasped Xiaolan's hand, excitedly said. Xiaolan hesitated and looked towards Guan, who winked at her and said, Go on, it's not a goodbye. When you return we'll have a good chat. Upon hearing this, Xiaolan's face bloomed into a smile, and she nodded immediately. Sage Su pulled Xiaolan and flew away quickly. Other great cultivators began to attend to their own disciples, and seeing that they had nothing to discuss with him, Guan turned and left. Guan, right? You better be prepared. Xiaolan will soon soar to great heights and become an existence that both you and even we will look up to, said a middle-aged Taoist, watching Guan's departing figure, and suddenly spoke. Guan did not stop walking. His departing silhouette made the other great cultivators shake their heads. Thinking he was being stubborn, little did they know how fragile emotions are in the face of time and talent. The journey of immortal cultivation is about mastering the Tao heart and dominating instincts. When cultivators overcome their emotions and desires, they naturally make the most beneficial and rational decisions for themselves. Guan did not mind the discussions of the wandering immortals. His thoughts were on Long Teng. Long Teng was about to face trouble, and he was ready to lend a hand. Regardless, he was Long Zhan and Long Teng could be considered his kin. Furthermore, Long Teng's presence in the Dao court was arranged by Li Xiandao. If something went wrong and the Li family and the Long family turned against each other, it wouldn't be a pretty sight. Guan did not want to test personal relationships. He was not walking quickly, as if strolling, since combat was not allowed within Dao City. Long Teng had performed well over the years and Guan was quite satisfied with him. If there was any flaw to point out, it was that he was too righteous, not selfish enough. Such a character was rare in the Long family, and Guan intended not only to save him but also to give him a push. Meanwhile, along another street, Long Teng and a man in blue walked shoulder to shoulder. "You are really impressive." The stele in front of you lit up, causing an uproar from the crowd below, and many were inquiring about your origins. The man in blue was sent by Li Xiandao to accompany Long Teng in his cultivation. After experiencing the prosperity of the Dao court, he thought the Taizong continent was quite primitive, so he acted very prudently. Over the years, seeing Long Teng suppress various geniuses, even those of Dao court were no match for him, which delighted him immensely. Especially his performance at the Enlightenment Convention. Long Teng's comprehension achieved the highest score with only a handful of people comparable to him. Compared to the man in blue's excitement, Long Teng was quite calm. He was still pondering the insights he gained from enlightenment. He felt he needed to find a path genuinely suitable for himself, as his current Taoist techniques were too mixed, leaving him somewhat confused. The two made their way towards the city gate, and even though Long Teng was not responsive, the man in blue kept talking non-stop, envisioning Long Teng's future in 10,000 years, believing Long Teng would surpass Yang Jian to become the premier warrior of the Taizong imperial dynasty. By the time they reached the city gate, Long Teng was still contemplating enlightenment. Suddenly a figure blocked their path. "Do you need something?" the man in blue asked with a frown. Long Teng's train of thought was interrupted, and he instinctively frowned, looking up about to speak. His pupils suddenly dilated, and he froze, his body even trembling slightly. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 588. The support of Dao Court. Long Teng looked at Guan before him, feeling a sense of unreality. He still remembered the day when the ancestor had raised his hand to suppress the heaven-supporting ancestor on the heaven-repairing platform, an image that was vivid in his mind to this day. Even though he had seen many strong figures with great powers, he could never forget the ancestor. Moreover, the Dharma aspect summoned by Long Qing that day made him feel a strong resemblance to the ancestor. Even though his father hadn't said much, he had always harbored such a guess in his heart. Guan looked at the excited Long Teng and smiled as he asked, "Not in a hurry to go back? Shall we find a place to sit?" Once Long Teng left the city, he would quickly be surrounded by troubles. Long Teng hurriedly responded, No rush at all." He was at a loss, not knowing how to face the ancestor. The man in the blue robe was surprised. It was the first time he had seen Long Teng lose his composure like this, and he dared not underestimate Guan, simply bowing silently. Then the three of them walked toward Dao City. There were plenty of places inside the city where they could sit and chat. Eventually they found an inn, and the three sat down by a window on the 4th floor. After Long Teng ordered some wine and dishes, he looked expectantly toward Guan. The ancestor had appeared at the Dao court. It couldn't be just to find him, could it? Even if it wasn't, now that the ancestor had shown himself, he must have something to ask of him. Source: web novel. Updated on Omicron. New Omicron. He was self-aware and knew he could not help the ancestor much, but he felt that perhaps his comprehension had attracted the ancestor's attention. Guan began to make small talk with Long Teng, asking about his experiences over the years, to which Long Teng faithfully responded one by one. Long Teng's attitude made the man in the blue robe even more curious about Guan, and when he found an opportunity he couldn't help but ask, "Senior, what is your relationship with Long Teng?" Guan smiled and said, "He is my descendant." Upon hearing this, the man in the blue robe suddenly realized, wondering to himself, wasn't the sect leader of the supreme sect the most powerful in the Long family? The sect leader was Long Teng's father. Could there be an even more powerful ancestor? Long Teng widened his eyes, extremely excited. Indeed, the ancestor was his ancestor. The fact that the ancestor would acknowledge their relationship excited Long Teng tremendously, giving him a feeling as if he were dreaming. Guan turned to the man in the blue robe and smiled, "Let's keep our meeting today a secret, and don't mention it to His Majesty either." "You know His Majesty?" the man in the blue robe asked in surprise. Guan picked up his cup and said, "I've known him for over 20,000 years. My name is Guan, you might not have heard of me." "Guan what? You're Guan." The man in the blue robe suddenly stood up, becoming even more excited than Long Teng, and just after asking, he regretted it and instinctively looked around. He saw that other cultivators in the inn did not care about their conversation, which made him sigh with relief. He sat down again and respectfully raised his hand to Guan, his hands trembling. Guan smiled and said, "No need for such courtesy, I pay no mind to the worldly rituals of the human world. Sword Venerable, rest assured I will not speak of it." The excited man in the blue robe said, his name was Li Yu, a descendant of the royal family. Although he was not from Li Xuando's direct line, he was highly regarded by Li Xiandao, so he was aware of the past between Li Xiandao and supporting Dao Sword Venerable. Long Ting also reassured him, his eyes never daring to leave Guan, afraid that Guan might suddenly disappear. Guan finished his cup in one gulp and continued, "Since meeting is fate, I shall enlighten you both a little." Before Long Teng and Li Yu could speak, Guan set down his cup, and a powerful Dao intent instantly enveloped the two, plunging them into a trance. Guan's gaze moved toward the window looking out over Dao City, where the sky was vast and the city splendidly majestic. It had to be said, the Dao court was indeed extraordinary, having built such a foundation in 20,000 years that was stronger than the ancient holy court. For a very long time to come, the Dao court would play a crucial role. Only when Liya rose to become the strongest in the celestial spirit great world would the Dao court become a thing of the past. But that was a very distant future. Time swiftly passed. After an indeterminate amount of time, as if waking from a dream, Long Ting awoke to see Liu still sitting beside him in a daze, and the inn server was standing at the table looking at them nervously. Coming back to his senses, Long Ting hurriedly said, "We're fine, you can go down." The innkeeper, although dubious, hurriedly caught the bag of spirit stones that Long Ting tossed out and bowed as he took his leave. Long Ting looked out the window, his divine sense probing but unable to find Guan. However, a segment of inherited memory popped into his mind. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Celestial Dragon Reincarnation Dharma Aspect. Long Ting's eyes flickered with excitement, filled with gratitude towards Guan. Unlike his father's Celestial Dragon Dharma Aspect, the Celestial Dragon Reincarnation Dharma Aspect summoned his reincarnation body, and what's more, without any cost. This gave him a clear direction for his future cultivation. The path of reincarnation. To wage wars across hundreds, thousands of lifetimes, and to condense the strongest Dharma aspect. Thinking of the Dragon Battle Dharma aspect that his father had summoned, Long Ting's heart burned with eagerness. At this moment, Liu also regained consciousness. After a brief moment of astonishment, he excitedly looked at Long Ting and said, "Long Ting, I've received the inheritance of the Sword Venerable, named the Seven Gods' Golden Body. Have you heard of this technique?" Long Ting shook his head. "Since it was granted by our ancestor, it must be a remarkable inheritance. What I received was another kind of divine skill. Yes, this Seven Gods' Golden Body is indeed domineering. I feel that if I perfect it, I could be qualified to contend with the heaven's proud sons," Liu said, holding back his joy as he grabbed some wine to calm his emotions. Long Ting did not respond further and instead turned his gaze back to the window. He suddenly grew curious. Why had the ancestor appeared within the Dao court? Could it be the ancestor was behind the Dao court? The rapid rise of the Dao court had always been a puzzling matter for all beings in the celestial spirit great world. If it was the ancestor, that would make sense. Liu continued discussing the power of the Seven Gods' Golden Body, talking incessantly as usual, even without Long Ting responding. Elsewhere, Guan had already met Xiaolan and they were heading back to the cave mansion together. On the way back, Xiaolan spoke of the Ting Master's appreciation for her. She would soon be relocating her cave mansion, and she said she would take Guan with her wherever she went, never to be parted from him. The Dao court allowed the heaven's proud sons to bring people into the main veins, as long as the numbers were few. Guan had no objections to Xiaolan's arrangements. He listened intently to her expressing her excitement. Months passed swiftly by. One day Guan and Xiaolan, led by a disciple of the main vein, arrived at the new cave mansion. After the disciple of the main vein left, Xiaolan looked at the little world before her, thrilled. This little world was quite vast, spanning 100,000 miles, brimming with spiritual energy, all belonging to Xiaolan alone. "Laner," Guan suddenly called out. After hearing him, Xiaolan turned around reflexively, only for a sword to fly towards her, which she caught instinctively. She looked down and realized it was the white spirit sword that Guan always carried with him. This sword is a congratulatory gift from me, congratulating you on becoming a true disciple of the Tao court, Guan said with a smile, looking at Xiaolan. Xiaolan, holding the white spirit sword joyfully, curiously asked, I've always wanted to ask you, what is the origin of the Cyan Hong sword and white spirit sword, and why do you always carry them? Guan replied, these two swords were given to me by the most important person in my life. She has passed away, and my giving them to you now signifies that you are the most important person to me at present. Upon hearing this, Xiaolan felt as sweet as honey in her heart, and she immediately rushed towards Guan, embracing him. Guan shook his head helplessly. How could this girl be more clingy than in her previous life? Always wanting to hug him, touch him. This sword contains extraordinary power. Don't tell anyone about it, Guan said softly, caressing Xiaolan's head. The white spirit sword was no longer ordinary. Guan had infused a newly forged Tao treasure into it, merging the two. The white spirit sword was now a Tao treasure, containing power enough to overturn the 9 heavens of the immortal Tao. The true meaning of the great Tao within it could aid Xiaolan in her cultivation. Nestled in Guan's arms, Xiaolan nodded. She never doubted Guan, burying her face in his chest. She felt truly blessed. Her immortal path was smooth, and the person she loved most was always by her side. She resolved to cultivate diligently, to protect everything she had. Alright, let's start managing this little world, Guan said, patting Xiaolan's back lightly with a laugh. Reluctant to let go, Xiaolan released her grip on him and took Guan's hand, walking forward as she shared her ideas about how she wanted this little world to look. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.